Wajir and Mandera counties. They're saying, we want more coaches. What was the message that came through from Salat?
You know, northern area is different from other part of the country. They have so many disadvantages we start with. There's cultural background, yeah. There's weather. The weather is terrible. It's very hot unless they train at night. At the same time, they don't have any facility. They don't have stadium. They don't have lights. They lack role models, these guys. No one from there is involved in a sports at the high level they can look up to. So for them, they're at zero. That's what I can say. They're at zero.
All right. And from some of the things that we'd like to see, they do neighbor, for example, if it's Garissa, they do neighbor Kitui County and, moving up towards Embu County. What opportunities are there for them to partner with athletes from these areas? Because we've seen high performers coming in from the counties that neighbor them.
First, I think they will need facilitation first for them. These are people who have never lived beyond their region. So they need someone to guide them. Take them from their comfort zone, bring them into to Embu, Kigari area is very good and it's high altitude. They can train there. At the same time, remember, they still believe that they are yet to live with other people. So it will take a lot of energy and effort from the government and Athletes Kenya to convince these people to come the other part so that they can get the required training.
It's a cultural aspect, and for example, you mentioned about Osman, and he's been running in the country doing the local track and field circuit, where the fact that he participates is a person who can offer opening. He could open the doors for so many people out there. What more does he have to say from moving around the country? For example, in Mumias, Embu, Kisumu.
Actually, his wishes is that if he can be given a chance to come to train in Nairobi, and maybe train next to his role model, which he says is Alpha Kishoyan, the national 400 meter champion. That's what he's looking at. Yeah.
Now let's move on to something else that the CEO Susan Kamau mentioned. It's about women, and we've got to deal with a cultural aspect that you just won't fight it. It's the reality there. But we've seen great women from Islamic countries. Nawal Al-Mutawakel, she's in the IOC executive board. She's a member of that. She's high up there in the IAAF. The first woman from a Muslim country to win a gold. She broke the barriers, and she's done a lot. What is it that AK Garissa wants to see happen to get more women involved in athletics?
First, I think they will start with at the school level, from primary school and secondary school. The teachers are not putting enough effort to convince these kids to involve in sports. I talked to one of the officials there, and he was saying that in 80s, women were involved in sports. But at time goes, some people who had gone for studies, religious studies in Saudis and Egypt, when they came back, they brought those religious regulations that bar women from exposing themselves in the public.
Now that becomes a little bit interesting because we really love whipping the Egyptian volleyballers.
Yes. Now, first they need to convince the religious leaders in the region, then education sector, to embrace the sports. From there, then everyone can follow the rule. Kids are funny. You instill this value of sports at the very young age. That's primary level. If that foundation is not there, then that means that definitely as they grow old, they will not be involved in sports. So at the moment, the first thing is to convince the teachers, the education board from that region, to embrace sports as part of their co-curriculum activities.
The facilities there, because from my experience for a very long time, even public holidays, for example, in Garissa, when you had the provincial commissioner, reading the speech on behalf of the president, most of this would be held at Garissa Primary School. So what about the facilities that are available within the schools and maybe with other institutions that are in Garissa?
There is a Northeastern College. Yeah, is a national college, and they have a track. They have actually a track, but yeah, it's up to standard. But the state, yeah,
it's a Maram track.
Is a Maram track. If they can upgrade it a little, then give these kids shoes, yeah, to train, yeah, the kids to run. They will make it. Yeah, I believe they will make it.
Now, the other one that is just one of them. You could give us some of the other, camps that you visited. Let's now move westwards. Let me mention about the Embu area, because it's interesting. Our race walkers come from Embu, and we have got a couple of marathoners also coming in from that region. What was the story from, east of Mount Kenya?
East of Mount Kenya is very interesting also. Yeah, despite having the best walker, actually around eight times African champion.
Yes, Grace Wanjiru.
Grace Wanjiru, and having
Samuel Gadimba is also associated
from that region, and also Daniel Wanjiru, the marathoners. Also, remember the last person to won the world championship in 10,000. That's Kimathi, Charles.
Charles Kimathi. Yes, he's from Nyeri County.
Yes, but he lives in Embu.
In Embu.
Yeah. But interesting part is that the last couple of years, let's say 5, no young athletes is coming from that region. Yeah, that's actually another challenge, which the leadership of athletics in this country and their grassroots leaders need to look into that. Yeah, because at the moment I can't pinpoint any serious runner who is coming from that region, apart from those who performed earlier.
And the sad thing is Njiru passed away in an accident.
Yes.
So that would have been now
another advantage.
An advantage for them in the steeplechase.
Yes.
Now, when you look at Lower Eastern, we've got names that have come from there, long distance runners. I think even the first Kenyan to win Chicago, Nzao, comes from there.
Yes.
We've got Cosmas Ndeti,
yes.
Patrick Kivuti. We can continue with the names on and on. What's the situation in Lower Eastern?
Lower Eastern is
Southern, as they call it.
Yeah, they call it Southern at AK level. Lower Eastern, the talent's there, and you can actually see young athletes, who are eager to achieve in athletics world. So for them, we can say the continuation is there. Yeah, unlike their counterpart in Embu and the other part of Meru. Yes.
The coast region, Kenya's gold medals in the 100 and 200, they were known as yards then. The late Serafino Antao, he was from the coast. At the moment, what's the status of athletics under Dimi Kisal? It's
interesting because there are kids there who dominate in sprints in primary school level, and actually they have national champion Benson, a young lad there called Benson, who was a finalist in 2,000 meters in the last championship.
Meters.
Yes, 200 meters, the last championship held in Mumias. And remember, this is the boy who have never had a coach. He trains alone. He trains alone. He has never worn a spike. He has never used a starting block, but he still went and got a good result. That shows that the potential is there. They only just need guidance and the opportunity to explore and explore.
Now, the whole thing is, for a very long time, the Kenya Ports Authority there in Mombasa, they had a strong athletics tradition.
Yes.
We can even think of somebody like, I think, Eric Keter, who was quite a long time based there.
Yeah.
What's the story that now we could see from Mombasa? Because we know they've got a good sprint history, but it's not been 100% utilized.
Yes. On a little part, I'll blame the athletics leadership in that region. They're not pushing the national office, and the government, to at least assist in a small way. You don't have to go big way. Athletics is not like other sports. It needs very little effort to make someone. So the interest from corporates in that region, they no longer do a lot of social responsibility in sports. Yeah, so it's basically been left to individual runners. Yeah, at the same level. At one point, they leave athletics and go to football.
Now, the
Maybe other
temptation for
sports.
football at the coast is there.
Yes.
Now, the other one, now let's move on to the places where everyone knows is the hotbed of athletics in Kenya, Eldoret, Iten, and Londiani area. Tell us about the camps that were there, because you have huge numbers in those areas.
Yes, like Lemotit athletics camp in Londiani, and Gabriel, Coach Gabriel, they have a history of producing youngsters, the likes of Sandra, the likes of Emily Chebet, and now they have 50 athletes, who are below 20 years, and actually, even if the championship will be held in 2022. They still have
2021, presumably, yes.
Push it to even further. They still have at least. Gabriel says that he is sure of at least getting 8 slots at the national trials.
And that is in the national team.
Yes, and even the last cross country. Yeah, because the last cross country had under 18 and under 20. Yeah, majority of top 10 runners came from that camp. So him is assured of continuing with the tradition of producing talent in that area.
And what were the athletes saying at Lemotit, if we were to start from there?
Lemotit runners, their hope is just that things will come normal, and they go back to normal training, and they'll be given a chance to run at the under 20. They're looking forward to that.
Kapsabet,
the Janet Jepkosgei.
Yes.
Yeah, she's doing an amazing job there with kids. She's actually literally sponsoring so many kids in the high school, and at her camp, there's good lineage of talent, who want to use the world under 20, to launch their international running career. So there is another one.
Eldoret,
we talk of it. That's you'll go down to Kaptagat and go down to Kaptagat. It's the same story. It's the same story, and kids are there. Those young boys and girls.
Okay, the story of Kaptagat is that there are more established camps. There's a Rosa camp, there is Global Sports Communication.
Yes.
And so you find that it's some of the more elite athletes. But what about the development program? How is it working there?
Yeah, the stables, the management companies that are having elite camps there, they also support youngsters. Yeah, through AK leadership of Solo Mutai.
Yes.
Yeah, they are involved in every talent that is coming out from that region. And actually, they are I wouldn't maybe I can't mention names, but these companies are actually paying some of the school fees for these kids. Yeah, so that they can only concentrate in training, and not to be starved by school dropouts. Education is they are really focusing also on education at the same time.
And it's something that you've mentioned, because I have always compared athletes who were running in the 80s and the 90s, and you find out that if you they tend to be fully comprehending their program, their athletics and everything, and even those up to the early 2000s, how much is being done to improve, especially when it comes to the communication skills. It doesn't have to be English. It doesn't have to be Swahili. They can even do it in Nandi or even Marakwet. There's not, I mean, that's why we all have vernacular radio. That's why we have Kitwek FM at KBC, because it serves that region.
You know, they have actually noticed that you can actually achieve more, yeah, with education and talent. Yeah, they have established that, and they're working on it. If you see the young athletes coming up, they are people who can stand in front of people and address the group or even TV, yeah, media. They can actually talk to the media, yeah, and that's a good progress. If you look at remembering that the last 10 years, many athletes could not communicate, and with education, I think they'll go somewhere, I think.
All right. Well, Dennis Okeo, he's an athletics writer, telling us about the tours. Well, we'll be mentioning it 10, and after that, talk about, you know, the lack of activity and what athletes say it, and the virtual runs that have been there, plus the anti-doping campaign. But before that, let's move over to Treasury Building in Nairobi, and this is where the Cabinet Secretary for Treasury and Planning, Ambassador Kuriatani, is addressing the nation on the economic impact survey on households on the coronavirus pandemic.
Kenya include inadequate funding, inadequate timely and disaggregated data, and inadequate capacity. COVID-19 has also adversely affected several sectors such as education, health, tourism, agriculture, manufacturing, and trade. This has affected the livelihood of the most vulnerable groups and wiped out many SDG gains. Kenya is following whole of government and whole of society approach to tackle the pandemic. The National Emergency Response Committee of COVID-19 is taking the necessary measures to address the pandemic in the short term, while the economic recovery strategy under preparation will be handling at the medium term. The responsibility of coordinating implementation and tackling of SDGs is led by the government. However, the implementation of the same is shared responsibility among all stakeholders. The government acknowledges that implementation of the SDGs is a concerted effort involving a host of different stakeholders and will continue engaging them during implementation, follow-up, and review. It is only through a cohesive, collaborative, and concerted effort of all stakeholders that Kenya will make good progress towards meeting these goals and targets. Moving forward, the report we are launching today will be disseminated to stakeholders and action plan developed to address the identified gaps and challenges in order to accelerate the achievement of the SDGs and raising awareness. This process will also help in strengthening dialogue with the stakeholders that is critical in the implementation of the SDGs during the decade of action. Finally, as I conclude, allow me to thank members of the Interagency Technical Committee who greatly contributed to the preparation of this report, as I commend the good work by SDG Coordination Directorate in the State Department of Planning for spearheading this process, and the overall guidance of the PS, Saitoti and his team, the Principal Secretary, for providing leadership to the 2020 VNR process. With those remarks, allow me to thank you all for finding time to be with us as we launch the 2020 VNR for Kenya. Thank you very much. Maybe I think before I now formally launch the report, I can allow one question. If you have none, I think I want to join. Maybe after, huh? let's first launch this. Okay? So I want to launch with the team, PS. So this is the report you are launching, and as you have been told, we are doing for the second time, and we are running our own course. we are carrying out our own review to make sure that, you know, the SDGs and the targets and the indicators we've given ourselves between the year 2017, just to confirm that we've made substantial progress in the implementation of the SDGs. We are very happy with the outcome. But we are not saying that we are there yet. We are working towards fast tracking of the implementation of all the indicators of the SDGs, despite also the challenges, particularly the COVID-19 and other hiccups that we found along the way. But overall, we are very happy because the progress, we are on upward trajectory, and we are determined to reach the target within the period that we desire. Thank you very much. Maybe one question.
That is the Cabinet Secretary to the Treasury and Planning, Ambassador Ukur Yatani, who's launching the Economic Impact Survey on households, and this was at Treasury Building in Nairobi. And he's fully mentioned that, sectors that are heavily affected, education, especially when it comes to the private schools, they've taken a big hit. The health sector, that has taken a big toll, including the investment in infrastructure to handle with this. Tourism, this is pretty straightforward. No flights coming in. Most of the hotels have been closed down, and a stimulus package had to be given to the tourism and the hotel industry. Agriculture, especially when it comes to horticulture, with very little flights moving in and markets closed in Europe. Flowers, fresh vegetables, all have had that, and also manufacturing and trade. Those are the key details, and we shall get more in our bulletins as they come later, and that's at 1 p.m., 7 p.m., and 9 p.m. We continue with our conversation about athletics. We are with Dennis Okeo. He's an athletics writer, and for the past 1 month, he's been on a whistle-stop tour of the country. And this is with Athletics Kenya, where they have been giving, relief goods to athletes who are in different parts of the country. Last week, they were in Garissa. We saw that. They've been to Mombasa. They've been to Embu and Meru, and they've also been to what we would call the cradle of athletics in Kenya. And this is when you move to places like Eldoret and Iten. Let's mention those two places before we get to the fact that very few athletes have got activity. Iten is another place that I'd like to mention. What was the story of Iten?
Iten, athletes are actually training individually and observing the social distance that were put in place by the government, just to keep them fit. Yeah, that's the major aspect of training now, is just because they don't know when things, the normalcy will return. So at the moment, it's just to keep fit and hope for the best.
Now, let's also mention, I think Kisii, what's the story of Kisii?
Kisii have two camps, one under Bosire, and another one at Mogonga High School. Mogonga, is a basket. They've been known for producing sprinters, top sprinters.
Yeah, the most famous, being Mary Mora, obvious.
Is the most famous one. But they have other boys who just secured a scholarship to US. And, they are more into sprints and field event, which at the national level, that's where we don't perform well. Yeah, but they put a focus there. So maybe in 3 to 5 years, good results. Maybe you never know. You'll see another Julius Yego coming from that region.
Now, what I would like to mention now, moving away from that, because you've told the story of that, there is one thing is that athletes have not had a lot of action. So for the athletes who've had action, it has had to be virtual runs of one nature or another.
Yes.
Those are impossible games where we had the Rongai Athletics Club, Team Cheriots, Timothy Cheriot, Manangoi, and Melly being involved against Ingebrigtsen.
Yes.
Then we've also had this lady who's from Eldoret, who's known as Winnie, who's been running the 10K virtuals.
Yes.
Plus, we had the NN running team doing the marathon over 2 days, where you form teams of 4 and you run.
Then you hand over.
14, you do basically about 14 kilometers handover, 14 kilometers handover. How have the athletes responded to this concept?
Sometimes when you are pushed to the corner, you have to be innovative to move, to see what you can achieve. When Impossible run was the idea was initiated, yeah, by Oslo Diamond League organizers. We actually didn't know how that thing will be done, yeah, and even athletes themselves, they were confused. I spent a lot of time with the Manangoi team chariot in general, yeah, and they were not understanding it until the last few days to the event. That's when they understood it, yeah. Yeah.
What is it that they could not understand about this 2,000-meter run?
First, 2,000-meter run, they have never run 2,000-meter race event. They have never done it. Secondly, the running against someone who is running at a low altitude compared to Nairobi, which is huge high.
It's about 1,600 meters above
sea level. Yeah, and they are being told that they will look at the time of individual time of the 3 runners who will cross the line. Yeah, such thing they have never experienced. Yeah, so they needed to understand that, although they were ready for it. Yeah, but at the same time, they were on a learning process.
What was the outcome for these athletes from doing the impossible games when they did the 2,000 meters? I know 5 minutes 02 at altitude, that's fair enough.
Yeah, that's fair.
Considering
that's fair.
the kind of conditions they were in,
yes,
not having trained much. What did they learn from this virtual run?
They learn a lot. Individually, I think they really learn a lot from the race because they actually learned that in the world, yeah, things can stop. And you have to come up with an innovative way of doing certain things. Yeah, that's one of the major things the athletes learn. Not even them alone. Kenyans, even journalists, even athletes Kenya, they were on a learning process.
And what's the potential for virtual runs in the country now?
Off the cuff, maybe if I can say, is I know the government is probably planning one. Yes, this is very interesting. I know they're probably planning 1 or 2 before continental tour. Yeah.
So athletes can run different locations in the country.
Yes, yes.
Where they are recorded and matched.
Yes.
And from the potential, from what is from the potential of recording that, because you are directly involved in it, how did that go?
What really happened? What people didn't know that it was very hard for them to run at the same time with their counterparts in Oslo. One, by the time they were putting the concept down, Kenyan curfew hour was 7. Then a week to the event, they pushed it to
9 o'clock.
To 9 o'clock. Again, another thing was producing live from Nairobi and live from Oslo was very hard because remember they didn't have a huge budget for this, and production, the cost of production is crazy, and they didn't have that. So what they did was to record the event as live and put an embargo on it until that hour. Interesting part, it was really raining all through. Yeah, and the race director was really concerned about the weather, but at one point, Team Chariot said, "No, you guys, we have to do this. Yeah, we have nothing to lose. We are just doing this for fun, to entertain our fans." They were competing for, they were actually chasing European record that was being held by Steve Krom, who is actually commentated the race. Yes.
Now, so that is part of it. But as we move on, let's move on to another issue. Over the last 3 weeks, 2 Kenyan athletes have been sanctioned by the Athletics Integrity Unit. One for having a substance, it was found to have prohibited substance in the system, and he was banned. And he was sanctioned for 4 years, and this is after admitting the charge. Previously, he had presented a medical record and was told, listen, whatever you are being treated for, the treatment you're saying could not have this. Now, on Friday evening, we got the news that Wilson Kipsang had been sanctioned for 4 years for attempted tampering and also for presenting false evidence. And this is in his case where he missed 4 tests between April 2018 and May 2019. At the moment, because I know last year the Athletics Integrity Unit, Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya, and Athletics Kenya spent a week in Eldoret speaking to road runners and track and field athletes. The question is, are our athletes listening?
Good question. You know, from my finding on the ground, because I go to these places a lot, whether there's a championship or just to go and check what's going on there. Doping is there. And the measures that have been put in place by ADEC and AAU, I can tell you, they will be swept away. All dopers will go. They will be swept by all this. I find it's very careless when someone is banned because of whereabouts. This is a system that was placed, and they understand the system. They were taken through this system. Yeah. The system is there. You log in, put where you'll be, and they only need 1 hour of your day, 24 hours. Is it hard to? And you find someone is missing 3 times, yeah. For the last one, he was given 4 chances. All got lost.
Now the question is, when you do this, and the case of Wilson Kipsang is sad, given that, I mean,
yes,
by 2013 he was at his peak, he was holding the world record at that point. And even after that, he always kept saying, listen, you say Eliud Kipchoge is unbeatable, I have beaten him. I know he lost to Kipchoge in London last year, but the story everyone's asking is, why present false evidence? And also last week, we got news that Florence Chipsoi has been taken to court for presenting forged documents to the Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya.
There's a culture that is actually in the country of shortcuts. People think that if I do this, they will not know what I'm doing. For example, you can't fight science. It's very hard. It's very hard to fight science. Some of the cases, this out of competition testing is the one that's sweeping them aside.
Yes.
That one, because most of those who dope, they dope during off-season. That's when they dope, not when there is competition. So that they tend to train with the substance in their body. That's one.
So what about because some of them say there is a way masking. Okay, being found with a masking agent itself is an anti-doping rule violation.
Yes,
you'll get sanctioned for 4 years. But why try beat this system? Yet with the new what about rules, it's getting everything is getting tighter and tighter.
When a thief is presented in court, they still try to prove that they are innocent. That's exactly what these guys are doing.
No, but
they don't want to go down completely flat out.
No, but anti-doping system is, especially when it comes to the urine samples, is that a prohibited substance is found in your body. If you had not sought a therapeutic use exemption, then you can't give an excuse. If you're not from Mexico, you can't complain about beef, like Canelo Alvarez used to complain. I had beef. Turned out, there was a problem with the beef in Mexico, so you get light sanctions. But why would anyone do this? I mean, the costs are heavy. Look at the case of Jemima Sumgong, 8 years. That's a career over. For Wilson Kipsang, he's 38, 4 years.
He'll be 41.
He'll be 41, 42 by the time
out.
the sanction is done.
Yes. What they're pushing is just luck. It's luck that because the testing officers, they don't say when they'll come. They can come anytime. So those who are cheating tend to believe that I will not be caught, and they are just pushing their luck.
Then it also brings out another case. When these doping control officers show up, we had a case in Kapsabet, I think in February, January or February, where an athlete saw the doping control officers come in, and he took off, jumped out a window, out a fence. What is it that he was afraid of?
Definitely that shows that there's something he or she was running away from. Probably he had just done what the vice a previous night or so, and he knew If my sample is taken now, I'm done. So probably my thinking was that maybe, because probably that was, because normally there are three, because that case is registered as a skip.
Yeah, it's a
Yes,
mistest.
a
It's
mistest,
one
a
of three
skip,
which you can
yeah,
get away
one
with.
of the three. Yeah, probably that was he or she was pushing at.
I mean, how far? And so the question then begs, how much more needs to be done by the Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya, Athletics Kenya, and looking at some of the sanctions that are there, we've seen that even other sports also have a problem when it comes to the doping problem. We've seen bodybuilding, boxing, which is a sport. I think those are the two key sports where
Yes.
there are problems.
You know, the measures that have been put in place by IU, that is athletes biological passport,
Or the ABP.
is going to actually push all the cheaters away and leave a clean spot. It will take time, because they analyze it, the finding over a period of time, and it can take up to 2 years. But by the time they are done with analyzing your variations, definitely you will be pushed out. Yeah, at the end of it, I believe will remain with a clean athlete, young athlete who can train hard and win easily and earn a decent living away from cheating.
And when it comes to the ABP, there is a gap in Kenya. We don't have the scientists who understand this, because you will talk about an athlete biological passport. I mean, you can have conversations with people and they think that the ABP is another test, but it's not.
It's not a test. It's the sample they take over a period of time is what they analyze. Yeah. The ABP is not showing the substance you're using, but it shows the effect of the substance you're using. You get it? So if your blood level keep on pushing up, going down, yeah, it shows that something unusual within your body system, yeah, and that's what they're discouraging among the runners, or rather sports women and men and women.
And in Eldoret last year, when the athletes were being told about the athlete biological passport, did they fully comprehend? Because it's a complex subject by itself.
It is. I was there personally. I was actually involved in that. They asked numerous questions on that. It was their main concern. They were not getting it. But IAU and the officers from IAU led by Aditya, yeah, tried to explain in a very, very simple way, yeah, for them to understand. And actually, they even had they printed out flyers, yeah, that showed the simpler way this thing is done. Yes.
So in this case, then for the people who are there, because the AIU will not be in Kenya every day to educate us,
Yes.
how many people in the country now can understand this ABP and explain it to athletes?
Officers at ADAC have really done a lot of seminars and training on this, and they understand it. I've attended many of their seminars, and I have a feeling that what they are giving out is the correct what do you call it?
Description of
Of what is needed. Mm-hmm. So, ADAC is mandated. They have that capacity, yeah, to give the information to these athletes. They're only refusing to understand.
Okay, now that's a difficult term to use. Refuse to understand.
Yes.
Wamekataa kuelewa.
Yes. It's because maybe there's something they're hiding. They don't want to show that they understand what's there. Yeah.
And going forward, what is it that people have got to know, especially from 2021 when the code comes in, and it's going to be really tough for anybody in any sport, especially if you're in an Olympic sport?
The regulation, you know, the aim of all this is to get a clean sport. yeah, and give deserving rights to those athletes who run clean and compete at the same level in a clean manner.
So, Dennis Okeo, he is a sports writer, and looking forward, by the way, we've got this, the season technically, 2020 is done. No qualification for the Olympics until December, at least that we know. The Continental Tour goals, what is it that you would like to see? I'm going to give you an opportunity at least to speak to the task force that's working to ensure that there's a return to sport in the country.
Yeah, I think that the best thing the government have done through the CS Amina, forming that task force to give way forward to give advisory role. I know the world tours will happen. It will happen, and probably if it's going to happen, it might be without funds, which is another sad. And also, it will again depend on the international travel. Yeah. What I know they will do is encourage runners from the region. That's Eastern Africa, Ethiopia, and Egypt. Ethiopia, Eritrea, Uganda, Tanzania. Yeah, and maybe South. Yeah, to come and grace, because this is a championship for Africa. Yeah, but in case it's postponed, then they'll plan again. Remember this, the chance, the tour will run for 3 years.
So that means you may have 2 events, but looking forward, if you were to be optimistic, because for example, Rwanda now, if you're from Rwanda, you can actually travel to Europe. You can travel to Europe now by air. It's one of the countries that was given an all clear. Yes. Kenya at the moment, I think they got, at the end of last month, they got some clearance from as a safe destination, which means that the skies may be opened, and even President Uhuru Kenyatta had mentioned that when speaking to the Atlantic Council.
Yes.
What more could we do, especially for us who get involved in the sport? What is it that you've seen, for example, from the Impossible Games that we need to do to ensure that the event is safe?
To make sure that the event is safe, you just follow the regulation that have been put in place. That is in case the cases, because we see the cases, the COVID cases are still surging, and it all depend with Kenyans how they'll conduct themselves, yeah, towards that. But maybe if I may conclude, most of the athletes are actually preparing for the Diamond League. Yeah, you know, there's a short-term calendar that is supposed to start to start in August.
Yes.
Yeah, I know many athletes are looking forward to that. At the same time, hoping that you know, there's a visa regulation put in place by EU on Schengen visas. Yeah, their hope is that even that will be eased by the time August approaches, which unfortunately is a month away.
Well, that is Dennis Okeo. He's an athletics writer joining us and giving us his insights into athletics, where the country is, especially when it comes to the menace of doping. He's been there, he's had athletes, and he said, yes, the athletes have been given the information that they need to know. And in his own words, they have refused to accept and understand what the anti-doping fight is all about. We'll be getting into more conversations. Next, we'll be moving on to conversations around football. What's been happening in the EPL, and also the case of African football, specifically women's football. We'll be taking that after this little short break.
When the world changed, it made us go back to the simple joys and love the little things even more. like serving up your best, eating together, and sharing more. Now, we'll take nothing for granted. And always remember to taste the simple joys. Coca-Cola. Taste the simple joys.
On the next episode of Corner.
Why did you have to do it? Alafu umeshinda umenekea guilt.
Acha.
Mkora tubonge. Talk now.
Why is Ayira constantly visiting you? You better not be up to something stupid.
Justice will be served like hot tea.
Imagine my shock when I discovered that you are behind this pyramid scheme.
Needed to clear my head.
Every time something happens, you run here and hide.
On the next episode.
What's wrong, Julio?
Do you actually believe that I would feel like coming home after that scene that you made yesterday?
Where were you? Hana was speaking to someone very suspicious. She said that she's not going to give us the money from the insurance.
This is the very last time you run away.
It's clear that you don't care about my feelings. Like I'm not your daughter.
We're making a mistake. This is not an impulse. This is my wish. Can't you see it's a necessity for me? What interest do you have in that maid keeping all of that money?
I am Ramon, the son of Juana.
In Love with Ramon. Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
It's a different ball game. Online concerts, album releases, and virtual parties.
That's the new norm in the entertainment scene.
Corona or no corona, lazima test.
Rock and roll on Grapevine.
Every Monday at 10 p.m.
Hali imekuwa ngumu, hakuna pesa kila kona, kila mtu unamdai naye anasingizia corona.
Gear up and maintain a healthy, fit and active lifestyle right there at home by keeping up with Gear Up on Channel 1, 5:30 to 6 a.m. Monday to Saturday. Gear up every day for every moment, and remember to stay home and keep safe.
It's a different ball game. Online concerts, album releases, and virtual parties.
That's the new norm in the entertainment scene.
They say I'm drunk.
Grapevine exclusive.
Of course, being a beauty pageant, you have to first showcase your prowess in fashion and modeling.
A lot is going on, and it's happening fast.
Corona or no corona, lazima test.
We are on top of things to bring you up to speed to meet all your entertainment peacemakers.
Live in their bubble and be privy to what they're up to.
I could still feel the audience energy.
11 songs was not easy, but I'm happy we did it.
Let's rock and roll on Grapevine.
Every Monday at 10 p.m.
Hali imekuwa ngumu, hakuna pesa kila kona, kila mtu unamdai naye anasingizia corona.
And welcome back to NewsCheck on this Monday morning. It's the 6th day of July 2020, and everyone's expecting that some announcement will be made. We are keeping our tabs on that, and we want to See, keep up with the news as it happens. Already, we've seen the State Department of the Treasury release the COVID-19 Economic Impact Survey on households. That was by the Cabinet Secretary, Ambassador Ukur Yatani. And also today, the Kenya Ports Authority Managing Director and key port stakeholders are on the tour of the port. So they have done the tour, and they will brief us shortly on what they have been going through there. Our reporter in Mombasa is Ann Boro, and also the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union will be giving their weekly press briefing, and this is on their activities at the front line of fighting the coronavirus. Time for us to get into a conversation, and this time about football, and we are joined by our regular analyst, Gregory Mulemi. Gregory, welcome.
Thank you.
And I'll start with last week before we even touch on what happened over the weekend. It was technically it was the handover of the English Premier League title, and this was from Manchester City to Liverpool. And so Manchester City give Liverpool the guard of honor, then hammer them. What just went sideways, even as Liverpool tried to go for they wanted to go for 107 points, now it's down to 104.
I think it all boils down to how they approached the game. I think they were too casual if you watch the game very well. The first 20 minutes, they really tried pressing City, but those missed chances showed that in the last 1 week, they have not been training properly. I think they partied a lot, and it cost them the 3 points. It was uncharacteristic of them. The defense line was just poor. And it's something I think the coach addressed later on, saying that I think we relaxed way too much before realizing that we are facing City, who are very immaculate on the day.
So, standout thing, what was, the fact that they said, all right, you get into the party late. So what exactly went sideways in that game?
First of all, they call it the guard of horror. Because whatever happened in the 90 minutes was a complete shadow of what Liverpool had achieved the whole season.
A horror show.
A horror show, because that was like a mediocre team playing against City, who looked more like champions on the day. And I think it was a wake-up call for Liverpool, because after that, I'm sure they went down, sat, and tried to rectify the obvious mistakes that they committed against a very good Manchester City.
Now, over the weekend, then more action, because that was Thursday night. And let me just mention about one team, Norwich City. They got promoted with so much promise. But what went sideways for them in this season?
I can't even explain what's happening to Norwich City, because you look at the kind of football they're playing. It's very attractive. They have very good players in their ranks, the likes of Cantwell, Timo Pukki. These are players that can play in any team in the top 6 and fit in very well. But I think it's just a little bit of bad luck that has just befallen them, because you look at some of the results they posted in this season, they've been very positive results against seasonal sides and title contenders. And I think it boils down to how do you approach different games match day, on each and every match day. You look at how they play against, let's say, Manchester City, Chelsea, Manchester United, Liverpool, or Arsenal. It's quite different as to how they approach the games versus the likes of Newcastle and those teams that are in the mid-table and the bottom half of the table.
And so for them, what next? Because they got bundled out of the FA Cup by Manchester United. That was their one hope of, trying to get some better football. And you even mentioned people like Pukki, who at the start of the season, everyone was asking, Temu who? Because he was delivering the goals. And at the moment, being rooted at the bottom with just about 6 matches to go, nothing really, unless they win every game that's remaining.
It's quite impossible to say that they can post positive results right now, because you see, when it's closer to the business end of everything, even the mindset changes. You look at how they've been playing lately, it's like they're really struggling to make, to pick any point, even at home. And in fact, at home, they've been very poor, because they've not picked up, I think they picked only a single point at home. And it's something that has really affected them. You look at the players right now, the body language is not the same as it were, let's say in January, when they believed that they could stay afloat. And I think it's something they can really, because right now they should just start accepting that they'll go back to the championship, build from there, because they were very, very impressive when they were promoted, and they showed that they had a character of maybe finishing in the top 10 in the league. But lack of proper strengthening with good players to challenge for those titles and points in the league really cost them. They believe that this side, the squad they had right now, was able to compete, and which it never did.
Now, moving on to the action over the week on Saturday, it's that battle for the other European places. Manchester City, looking a little bit comfortable in second place, but it's about third and fourth. First of all, let's talk about Wolverhampton Wanderers. The coach Nuno Espirito Santo, before they played against the Arsenal, had said that, was asked, are we going to Europe? And his response was, no, we're not focusing on Europe. It's about, first of all, going to Champions League. No, it's about, first of all, ensuring that we've got a style of play. His words basically came to bite him. But Arsenal, a revival of some sort.
They're saying that it's the most informed team
after the title
after the title is won. It's something that is funny because you look at, but I think it's the belief that Arsenal have right now. Giving those boys contracts gives them confidence, and you could see what the likes of Saka did in that game. But coming to Norwich, not Norwich, but Wolves, it's a team that has stayed together, stuck together for the last 3 seasons, and I think what Nuno Espirito Santo is trying to say is that they're trying to identify their own style of play. I think they're trying to bring in that Portuguese flair, because you look at how they're playing, it's one of the most attractive sides to watch in the Premier League right now. And what they're doing, I think, will help them in the coming seasons, because right now they've cemented, let's say, a top 7 finish.
And for Arsenal, you see, at the moment, Europe is the only sure way for them to Europe at the moment would be winning the FA Cup. Where do they move up to now?
I think, first of all, they have to accept that they're on a renaissance, in that right now they can't do much. Get those things together, make sure that right now they put everything in order so that in the coming seasons, they try and challenge the top 5. Because right now, what they've overachieved, to be honest. Nobody expected Arsenal to perform this good, especially after the resumption of the league. And it's something that I think Arteta has made sure that at least they'll have something to salvage this season.
All right. Well, Gregory Mbulemi, he's our resident football analyst, giving us insights into the EPL. We'll be getting back to the EPL, but right now, why don't we go west of the frontier and join African football writer Asha Kumugisha, who's joining us on Zoom from Kampala. Asha, a very good morning to you.
A very good morning to you too. How is everyone?
Everyone so well. Let me just break the ice. You could just tell us first about Uganda and how things are, because I know you've had stricter measures than we've had here in Kenya. How much has President Museveni done, to ease the measures, and how is life, changing as we talk about the new normal?
Well, obviously, I don't know if you know this, but Uganda has always dealt with viruses in a very good way, I should say, all the way, HIV/AIDS and also the Ebola virus, because we're neighboring the DR Congo. And so this has been a lot stricter for the people, because we effected a lockdown as early as first week of March. And once that got in, everyone had to stay home. It's been 3 months, but now private cars can move. We have less than 1,000 cases, over 819 recoveries, and we have less than 1,000 cases in general. So, and no one has died, from the coronavirus. So I can say that we're among the few countries across the world that have handled this very well, but definitely changed life everywhere, especially from a sports perspective. No sports, there's no news actually about if even any activity will resume anytime soon.
And well, that's something that would make Kenya envious. We're doing 100 and over 130 deaths from COVID-19. So Uganda, well, you've done well for the containment measures, and we hope that very soon the borders will be open and we'll get into conversation. But it's more about women's football in Africa today, because last week the Confederation of African Football, they had their executive committee meeting, and some decisions were made, and one of them was to cancel the 2020 edition of the Women's Africa Cup of Nations. That was cancelled, and consider that in April, around the 6th of April, Kenya was to play against Tanzania, Uganda against Burundi. Your reaction to this decision by the EXCO of the Confederation of African Football?
A very, very big disappointment for women's football on the African continent from that front, because when you look at the upcoming countries, and when I say upcoming, really, I would like to think that the East African region was one of the most affected regions in Africa, because we have teams that are upcoming. Look at Kenya. That participation in the Africa Women's Cup of Nations in 2016, it was not a one-off. I'd like to believe that these girls have what it takes to get back to that level and compete at such a level of competition, and to see that there are so many other girls that are playing professionally outside of Kenya right now. You have Ese Akida playing in Turkey, and so many that are looking up to her, and others also in the US. It's the same for Uganda. Uganda has so many young girls that are playing in universities, in secondary schools, getting scholarships to go and play in the USA, and they were looking forward to coming back home to play for their countries. So it's a big disappointment, especially after because it was supposed to be 1 year after the FIFA Women's World Cup. So an opportunity for countries like Nigeria, South Africa, and Cameroon to see where they are, in regards to the rest of the continent, but also for Zambia. Shocking Cameroon there in that Olympic qualifier and making it to Tokyo. That would have been an opportune moment for them to prepare for the Olympics by playing at the Africa Women's Cup of Nations, but it's been cancelled, and now they have to wait another 2 years to play a competition like that. It's very sad and disastrous by the CAF Executive Committee. They really did not do women's football any justice.
Well, and as they made that decision, another one was made, is that there's going to be a CAF Women's Champions League that will be launched in 2021, with the format and the details to be communicated in due course. And the first thing is, if I was to talk about club football, if Kenya was to pick a representative, then it had to be random, because the Women's League was annulled, and this is after only 2 matches were played. What exactly would you expect from a Women's Champions League in Africa?
Well, obviously, we've been trying to push for this for the last 4 years, really. And it's amazing to see that at least they got one decision right to bring inter-club football for women's football in Africa. 2 years ago, we went to Marrakesh in Morocco for the first ever CAF Women's Football Symposium. And we documented all these things that will take women's football to another level. Actually, I remember Doris Petra, a member of FKF Executive Committee, was also there, and she was among the people that were pushing for this to happen. And it's good to see that now it's finally happening. But can you imagine that in 2021, really decades after the men's football has had inter-club competition, is when we're going to have a competition for women, because we need to have more competition at club level, at national team level, and so this is very timely, but the composition of how it will happen is going to be a little bit complicated. Even though we have 35 countries on the African continent that have functioning women's leagues, again, you have issues like that. The league did not end in Kenya, so you don't know who will represent the country going forward. But we hope that the leagues and everything else can get back to normal, so that inaugural league happens and in a very systematic way, so that it sets the pace for the coming seasons.
Well, you've mentioned 35 functional countries, and it also brings up another issue, is that at the FIFA Congress last year that was held in Paris, FIFA President Gianni Infantino made, in his opening remarks, he said that there is funding that goes to every federation in the world, every member association of FIFA, that goes towards women's football, and functional women's football was the only criteria for you to get the money, which means that 19 African countries do not get a single cent from the FIFA Forward Fund. We're speaking about $500,000. That would be something in the region of 50 million Kenya shillings. It would be, if my math is right, that would be something like 2 billion Uganda shillings or something of the sort. What's the status of the utilization of these funds so that it goes directly to those who matter? And this is the women who are playing football in Africa.
Well, to be honest with you, the FIFA Forward money is it's out there for every member association to get. You have up to $1 million every calendar year. And in the beginning of the year, the member associations get $500,000, and then after the first 6 months, they have to at least account for how they use that money so that they get the other bunch, the other $500,000. But women's football is among the 10 criteria that countries need to have. But I must say that CAF and even SECAFA or COSAFA, the regional organizations, have not been very tough on member associations in Africa. And that's why you have up to about 19 of them not able to get that money. Why? Because when you look at, for example, the issue of club licensing, CAF is very tough on clubs and saying, look, you have to have an office, you need to have a CEO, you need to have at least a functioning email, and that's how you run a football club. But they don't do the same for women's football. They don't follow up to know, do you have a women's program? Do you have a grassroots program? For example, a country like South Africa qualified for the Under-17 World Cup in Uruguay, and they only played 2 games in the qualifiers. Why? Because there's always less than 20 teams that are signing up to play in the qualifiers at the Under-17 level, at the Under-20. It's just a disaster because these guys, they don't care. At the beginning of the year, CAF hosted a technical directors conference in Cairo. And can you imagine that the technical directors, most of them marched to Cairo without programs about women's football and girls football? Like, it's like now we have a confederation of African men's football because they don't care about women's football. So if they're not willing to come out and say that we have a structure for women's football, then perhaps we should just organize our own confederation and run women's football. Because how can we be in 2020 and women are begging literally to have competitions? It's just a disaster. Because when you have the Harambee Stars, playing all these friendly games and going to all these countries to prepare for big tournaments, you don't really see the same for the Harambee Starlets. I've seen them play a friendly against Zambia, but when will we see them go and play a friendly against the big countries, against the USA, against Spain, against Germany, and play at that level? They need to play there. That's how they'll qualify for the Olympics.
Now, I want to mention something because you've spoken about, because that was a big hit. I know President Ahmad, if he watches that, I know he will give you a call directly. But by 2022, FIFA had said, and this was a strategy for them for women's football, and this is when they put together this, and it's a strategic plan. They say by 2022, 100% of the FIFA member associations have developed comprehensive women's football strategies. And that means we're just about, 1.5 years away, so that the 210 confederations can do that. And the first would be develop and implement a football in schools program, given the East African model where, we've got the Federation of East Africa's Secondary School Sports Association. How well does it augur in with FIFA's strategy?
Actually, the East African Secondary Schools Association, FIESA, as they like to call it, is, in my opinion, one of the best structures across the world. Because when FIFA decided, actually in March, I was very privileged to be in Kinshasa when Veron, the head of the chief of member associations, was launching this and saying that FIFA is trying to go towards this direction. And they said that they will specifically be looking at FIESA and borrowing a leaf, because we're very lucky, especially in Uganda and Kenya, that our schools program is very, very thorough. Like, children in schools, even, it's not just about football, it's about rugby. Look at Kakamega, and even in football, St. Mary's Chitende in Uganda, St. Noah, and some of these other schools, even basketball, actually, Laser Hill. I remember, I played basketball, so I remember Laser Hill. This structure is something that is amazing, because if you look at our Ugandan league, for example, the 8 top flight teams in the Women's Super League, 5 of them are educational institutions. 2 are universities and 3 are secondary schools. So you have girls that are playing week in, week out competitively at that level, and it helps our under 17 team because we won the COSAFA Cup in Mauritius at the under 17 level. It's the same girls that are playing at the under 20, the same girls that are playing in the senior team. So you see that it just keeps growing. And when you look at FIFA, they're going to borrow from the Fiesta setup of schools to preach literally to the entire world that you need to involve schools if you want women's football and even men's football to grow from that level, from the grassroots. It's easier to operate like that.
Now, the other one that everyone's talking about is how you communicate the women's game. For example, in Kenya, it works for itself. Anytime the Harambee Starlets are playing, for example, I remember one of the most toughest matches was playing against Malawi, and this was in the Olympic, qualifying series. And there is an interest that's growing there. One of the things that everyone's asking is, how do you communicate the women's game to the public?
Well, to be honest with you, first of all, in Kenya, you have Julia Wanjeri, who runs one of the most detailed women's football websites in the world. It's called JW Sports. She has a website that she runs, very nice pictures that she takes with her team, and they've covered so many tournaments. But on my side, I try to use social media, majorly because everyone is on social media. And for me, it's just the way you communicate. So obviously you have people that are following you for African football news. And by that, I mean the men's football game and, the rest of it, the English Premier League or whatever news across the world. So you use, you can use humor, you can use pictures, short videos to communicate from that perspective. But also on my side, I've formed a WhatsApp group. It may look like, it's just a WhatsApp group, but it brings together all the women's football stakeholders in Africa, administrators, coaches, agents, and journalists. And in this WhatsApp group, we communicate, we share news, and it helps us to understand what's happening in the Gambia, what's happening in Senegal, in South Africa, Botswana, Namibia, Egypt, everywhere. And just small things that help everyone to change their mindsets, and then they can go on the radio stations, televisions, and share this news. It's easy for us to get interviews. We do Q&As. So slowly by slowly, the interest is building.
Now, the other one has been the commercialization of the game. We've had it at, the FIFA World Cup level. Everyone's complaining. And for some countries, the pay that goes to a female athlete or a male athlete is the same if you're representing the country. Kenya, we've got structures under the national laws. So if Vivian Cheruiyot and Eliud Kipchoge go for an athletics meeting somewhere, they get paid the same amount. How do you commercialize this so that it gets to the same level or starts to match the same level as the men's World Cup, which makes about 5 billion on the World Cup year, vis-a-vis, match about slightly about 20 to 25% of what is generated from the Women's World Cup?
Well, to be honest with you, I remember 2016, Kenya came to play in the Sekafa Women's Challenge here in Uganda, in Jinja, and I was very amused at how the starlets were being treated by the federation. They were staying in a very, very nice hotel, very well treated, getting the same allowances. I had never seen that, because in Uganda it's totally different. The girls live in a dormitory. The boys, the Uganda Cranes, will stay in a 5-star hotel when they're camping, and yet they're expected to get the same results. Anyway, I will go away from that because it's at the government level. We expect that our National Council of Sports and the Ministry of Sports need to do something and streamline all those things. And in conversation with some of the leaders in this lockdown, actually, they've spoken about streamlining everything and hoping that, it goes towards that direction. Now, about commercialization, I think that, in any business, because football is a business, you have to invest before you can ask for results. Because can you imagine that the World Cup, the first ever men's World Cup, was played in 1930? That's how they are able to get all this, running. And as for the women, it's not even 30 years old, So it has to take time, it has to take investment. But for me, the major really factor will be television. We need to have more of this of women's games on television, and we saw that at the FIFA Women's World Cup in France last year, because FIFA worked together with national broadcasters, you know, like KBC, to make sure that the games are broadcast live, you know, as at least a threshold, so that even if pay televisions like beIN, Supersport, Canal Plus, when they come in, there's already a foundation. But the thing is, it only happens every 4 years. That's why the France Football Federation has requested FIFA to consider having the Women's World Cup every 2 years, so that it's on the television all the time. So that's just a proposal, and we're waiting to see if FIFA will consider it. But on the other hand, the reason why, for example, you wake up and discuss the English Premier League on KBC is because there's available content for you to do that. Now, can you imagine Sky Sports in the UK discussing the Kenya Premier League?
Well,
so if you, yeah, I mean, if you look at AFC Leopards, Gor Mahia, all of them on Twitter and their social media, how much content have they been putting out in this lockdown? And then vis-a-vis, look at all the Premier League teams that you're talking about. Every day, these guys have about 20 posts. Interview this, throw back that, I don't know, you know, like every time. So that's the thing about women's football. It's just there in the media space for maybe 2 weeks every 4 years. That's not enough. So commercialization, again, television, social media, information, it has to be out there, you know, because I'll just give you a short story to summarize this. Last year, Sasol, who are the main sponsor of Banyana, the South Africa women's national team, ran a campaign where they said that if you buy fuel at a petrol station, you enter into a draw to win perhaps, you know, maybe something like gifts, yeah? And then the national team captain of South Africa, Janine van Wyk, the most capped player, female and male on the African continent, you know, went to buy gas at the petrol station. And the lady at the gas station told her, you know, you could enter the draw, you may have a chance to go and watch Banyana at the FIFA Women's World Cup in France. And she said, yes, for sure, I'll have a chance. And this woman did not understand that that lady is the national team captain. Why? Because she doesn't see her on television every week. She's not a popular face, yet she's the most capped player, female and male on the African continent. So it's very sad.
Yeah. So Asha, and now you mentioned people like Van Wyk, and it also brings up now, where do some of our African stars now showcase their talent? Let me just go through a list, and this is from those who were the CAF Awards who had been shortlisted. Joran Shud of Cameroon plays her football in Valeranga. Asisat Oshoala plays for Barcelona, the Nigerian star. Gabriel Ngone of Cameroon plays for CSKA Moscow. Tabitha Chawinga of Malawi. As Kenyans, we would love to see her play, but not against the Harambee Starlets. And she's playing her football in China. Temi Kaklana of South Africa playing for Beijing Phoenix. Where do they now showcase their talents for the next 1.5 years? Because, to be honest, everyone's going to miss them.
Yes, I mean, it's quite, it's very sad, you know, that they won't have to play at the Africa Women's Cup of Nations, because I'm sure that they were looking up to it. Asisat Oshoala has been literally making all the right kinds of noise on social media, especially on her Twitter page. And also because we can't really watch these girls play at the club level. You know, you'll have to literally look everywhere on the internet to find even just highlights. Yeah, but there's nothing else we can do. We just have to wait it out and look forward to the Women's Champions League. Perhaps, you know, it's just a bittersweet moment for women's football on the African continent.
Now, I want to move away slightly from African football and also touch on some other things, some general things that, touch every person who's playing football. And the first is the financial support to member associations. And this was passed. Each member association will be entitled to $300,000. And that means, $16.2 million as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The question that everyone's asking is, what's the criteria for spending and accounting for this amount of money?
Look, even when there has been a criteria, when have member associations in Africa used money the right way? If you ask even one federation in Africa really to publish their accounts, their books on their website, that's if they even have a website. It's like you're asking them to cut off one of their hands. So it's really the same song, you know. I don't expect much from the member associations and actually giving out this money, because we know there's a lot of corruption, and FIFA doesn't really look at those books, because sometimes you look at the auditing that they do on a building that they claim is about 200,000, and between you and I, you know that it's not even 40,000, you know. So I don't really think that they're going to follow this criteria, but I hope that they'll have the human heart really to try and give out this money. But of course, it's a conversation they need to sit down and have with the clubs, who are the key stakeholders in this conversation, and see how best they can do that. Perhaps they can give the money in cash, or they can actually say that let's buy some food items, but they need to consult the stakeholders. They shouldn't just sit down as a member associations to decide on how to use this money. They need to have a conversation with all the stakeholders, all the clubs, women's clubs and men's clubs, and see how to approach that.
Now, the other one is the Interclub 2019-2020 season. The semi-finals and the finals are going to be one-off. We know Morocco will host the CAF Confederation Cup. It will host the Final Four. Makes sense for one reason or another. Morocco would make sense for that. But the Champions League, what was the tournament would be played in the Middle East, in the UAE. We saw the Super Cup. That happened to we saw that with the Super Cup. So what's with the Champions League semis and the final?
Well, I've spoken to the Cameroon president, the federation president, Pekafut, and, he's saying that he's very convinced that Cameroon is ready to host the CAF Champions League semi-final and the final. But knowing the weather conditions right now in Cameroon, I don't think that is going to be a good decision, because it's June, July, the weather is still, it's still raining. August the same, September it's still raining. But we really hope for the best and that it can eventually happen, because the English Premier League is able to be played even when it's raining, or even when it's winter, because when you look at a city like Manchester, it's always raining in Manchester, even in the summer, but they play. So if they need to use this technology, then they should go down that road.
And one last one, the cancellation of the CAF Awards. So looks like OAU 1982-83. But so what next for the awards system? Because it could be a time to look back and say, where do we now include, for example, players who are based in Africa and, would never match up with the likes of Sadio Mane or Mohamed Salah?
Well, I must say that sometimes when it comes to the CAF Awards, I just feel like CAF disappears in this whole phrase of, let's run with the European players, the players that are best in Europe. It's not just about that, because sometimes you have players that are playing in the CAF Champions League, in the CAF Confederation Cup, even in their leagues, that are doing a fantastic job, really. And they're usually ignored. And that's how CAF came up with the idea of saying, let's have an award that is the African best player in Africa. It's not really enough, because what are you communicating to those players that are playing in the African continent? Because you're saying, okay, if you don't play in Europe, then you cannot be the best player, So, and what about those players that play very well at the Africa Cup of Nations? So it's sort of like, now that we know that Sadio Mane and Mo Salah have done well with Liverpool, then okay, it has to be either of them. It has to be either Sadio Mane or it has to be Mo Salah. Yet you have some players like Muleka, who have played a fantastic season, in the CAF Champions League. So it's just a disaster, really.
All right. Asha Kumugisha, thank you very much for speaking to us this morning from Kampala. We wish you the best, and we hope to see some action back, and hope to see you in September for some athletics in the country for the Continental Tour Gold, and also when African football resumes. Thank you very much, Asha.
Asante sana. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, Karibu. Well, Asha Kumugisha, she's an African football writer giving us insights into women's football in Africa. We'll be getting back into conversation with that, but first, let's go to Mombasa and join our reporter Ann Burrow, who is at the Kenya Ports Authority, where there was, study as we look at, looks like it's Abdul Somad who's speaking there. Let's join the team from KPA.
We'll start meeting, a very nice meeting with the KPA management. And the agreement is that you've been seeing us every time on the street fighting monopoly. But today we've been assured by the KPA management that it will be optional. Whoever would want his cargo to be cleared in Naivasha or in Nairobi would write to KPA, and KPA would allow that. So it is a very good day for us. We are happy as transporters that KPA has finally listened to us, and tomorrow we are waiting to see the contents of the advert. We are going to put it in the newspapers, and we are going to read, and we are going to see what the contents are. But as of now, we are very happy. It's a very nice message that we've gotten from KPA that it is optional, and traders would enjoy this. Thank you very much.
Salim or Mr. PJ?
First of all, I would like to thank our MP for having initiated today's meeting. We are also very happy that this matter was discussed in Parliament, and the CS Ministry of Transport had confirmed that it is optional for Nairobi-bound containers for importers to decide. We are now waiting, and it has also been agreed today that this is the position. KPA is going to issue a public notice in the newspapers tomorrow. As soon as the public notice is issued, we will inform our members to inform the importers accordingly. Thank you.
We have Mustafa, who is representing the business community, the chair of the Chamber of Commerce.
Good morning, everyone. As was said here earlier today, we've had a very fruitful meeting, candid conversation. There'll be an advertisement that will be put in the paper tomorrow. Basically, to sum it, Naivasha remains optional. For Mombasa, you'll need to write to KPA. But then again, let us wait for the advert tomorrow, and let's see where this goes. But it was a candid conversation, and we've seen some communication from the CS. So, yeah, I think this is good news for the business community. And we support, in no way are we against the SGR. Let them come up with competitive rates. Let them be more efficient. And, I represent all sectors in the business community. For the importer, the bottom line. If the SGR makes sense, I assure you, they will not have the capacity to carry everything. So let them be more competitive and improve their efficiency. But give the people the option, which I believe they are being given now. Thank you.
Captain, and then...
Good morning. I just want to confirm that we had a very fruitful meeting with the members of parliament and the business community and the shipping agents, the clearing agents. And we've confirmed that KPA, we are going to issue a press release tomorrow, as issued by our CS on 2nd July 2020 to the parliamentarians. Thank you.
Na mimi pia nataka tu niweze kuemphasize kwa sababu tumekuwa tukisikia sisi wabunge tumekuwa tukitetea hili swala bungeni na tukawa tumeambiwa ya kwamba zile directives ziliondolewa, lakini kumekuwa na shida ya breakdown of communication. Imekuwa imesemwa kwamba zimeondolewa, lakini hakukuwa na proper channel of communication to ensure that the public knows. All those who are interested in this business, they know that there is an option. either upeleke Nairobi ama upeleke Naivasha. Kwa hivyo the thing is, sisi tulikaa kama wajumbe na tukasema there must be a way to ensure that hii directive ambayo imetolewa na tumeambiwa ya kwamba ni optional, itawekwa kwa njia ambayo kila mmoja atajua, na njia yenyewe ni kwamba by kesho tunataka kuona ile notisi imewekwa katika magazeti yetu ya daily, yawe yamewekwa pale na watu waweze kujua, na wale relevant stakeholders wako hapa pia, the same information to be disseminated mpaka chini kwa wale relevant stakeholders ambao wanatumia poti kwa mambo ya shehena. Na pia nataka nizungumze ya kwamba sisi kama viongozi bungeni, kuna channel za communication na kuna channel za kupeleka issues. Unaweza kupeleka through legislation, either through a motion or through a bill. Na kila kitu it is about consultation na kujua ile njia mwafaka ambayo inaweza kusaidia watu wetu. The thing which we want to see is that wale watu ambao wanahusika na mambo kama haya, watu wawe wanatuletea feedback, kwa sababu hata hii ya Mombasa Nairobi directive ilitolewa kitambo, na tulikuwa pia tuna expect tupate feedback ya kwamba yes it is true, sisi tunapewa option ya mambo ya kubeba haya makasha ama mashehena kwenda Nairobi na hata kule Naivasha. If we don't get the feedback, we'll not know what is happening. Tunajua there are other small challenges which for today maybe we cannot be addressing them, but we'll have another forum for prosperity na for future engagement ya mambo ya poti. Tutaweza kuwa na mkutano tena wa viongozi na wale relevant stakeholders, tuone ya kwamba a permanent solution in terms of the growth of the Mombasa port and the businesses in the coast region and Kenya at large, we can address them na tuwe na solution ambayo itakuwa it is a permanent solution for prosperity as a country.
All right, I'd like to say something.
Yeah. We have agreed that we confine ourselves to the issue of container transportation to Naivasha and Embakasi, and we're going to stick on that. However, the issue of the port is much bigger than that. As you are aware, we have a case in court which is ongoing, but that we're going to discuss other day. I want to confine myself on the issue that we have discussed, and that's it. And I agree with what Mheshimiwa has said. That's it.
I think we're done. But I think that is what we have just been talking about, that everything remains optional. The clearing and forwarding fraternity will inform their members, Chamber of Commerce will inform their members, KPA will inform the public through notice. We are hoping that you will air this to inform Kenyans accordingly. The COVID testing, you mean?
Yes.
I think now that is a whole different issue altogether.
That is a tactic used by the government to make sure that...
If I'm not mistaken, I think yesterday they went with the Minister for East Africa to actually open up the issue of the Meritini site, isn't it? Yeah. Am I right? Yes. So maybe that is something that has. And right now, as we're speaking, are they being tested? The testing is going on. I think this was a problem that was there, and it was a problem that was solved by us, the Minister for East African Regional and we have in charge of health as well, who is also here with us. This is an issue that has already been taken care of, and as we are speaking, the certification is going on. Let us not give people a reason by saying that we don't have the capacity to test. It is going on. That is the way it is. Certification is currently going on. Sawa, eh? Thank you very much.
Looking at the operations, the cargo operations there, and they were led there. And so we shall get a full report from Anburu, as you saw, the leadership of the harbour and also the business community, the Chamber of Commerce, and also Mvita. member of the National Assembly, the Honorable Abdul Swamad Nasir, giving, his thoughts on how it should operate, looking at how to make sure that the economy of Mombasa gets the real boost. We get back into conversation, and this is about football for a few minutes with Gregory Mulemi, who is our regular football analyst. And Gregory, as we continue, Asha simply, asked a question, the visibility of African football, because I want you to give your insights into it, because he says at KBC we've woken up and here we are speaking La Liga and EPL.
It's a fact because no one really cares about African football until, let's say, a tournament.
AFCON.
AFCON is on the horizon. Not even the CAF Champions League makes headlines in Africa than a normal EPL game, let's say Leicester plays Manchester United. That will sell in Kenya, not when Raja Casablanca is playing Gor Mahia. It's something that has been there, we inherited that, and I don't know who's going to change. Maybe it's us to try and
it is us. I know you watch the CAF Champions League. The other one is the East Africa School Games, the FEASA, the federation. You have FIFA using you as a model, but there you are, and you say, Tumefika, we have arrived.
It's something that is funny because you look at the East African School Games, I think it's the most successful competition and the most exciting. And if you see the likes of FIFA coming down to try and study how the model works, then why can't we locally try and embrace that, make strides using that, because it's one avenue. You know that having academies is expensive. Why don't you invest in this goal, starting with Kenya, the Kenya Triple SA? Start with Kenya. Make them attractive. We had the likes of talent, Kakamega being the talent centers. That was way back. The likes of Kakamega, Musingu, I think in Nyeri there was one school.
Gekanja and Creative of Volleyball,
yes,
those were the schools.
Those were the schools. We no longer have such things because what we do is trial and error.
You know what? You make me think of what US Soccer did. They closed down the academy because of fans and said, let's go back to the school system. And it's something that's interesting and a conversation that has just, sprung up and will continue. A quick look at Gregory, and let's take a look at, the EPL top four. Chelsea, 3-0 winners over Watford. Manchester United, that crazy match against Bournemouth ended 5-2. So we're looking at the three clubs which are looking at positions 3, 4, 5. Where do they stand at the moment?
Actually, you look at the points separating the teams. Leicester a point ahead of Chelsea and 3 ahead of United. It's a neck-to-neck race, and I believe that the next 3 match days will be very, very crucial for these teams. And you look at Leicester, they've only won a single match ever since from the restart.
Yeah, actually, before Saturday, the last time they'd won, we never knew what a Zoom meeting was.
Yes, that was early in mid-February.
Yes.
And it shows you that it's one of the teams that face a risk of being phased out in the top of the top 4 at the expense of the likes of United and Wolves. Wolves are, you see, they have 52 points. They are not far away from that position. And you look at how they're playing right now. They dropped points at Arsenal, against Arsenal at home for the first time in 8 years. That was a shocking result. But then you look at how they've been playing. They're a wonderful side. We were just talking about them having that Portuguese flair, Portuguese manager, and very good Portuguese players in their ranks. You look at Chelsea. Chelsea, they surprise me because I can't tell you that they'll win tomorrow or they lose, because they blow hot and cold every time, and it's something that is very dangerous. If the league was, let's say, on match day 12 or 8, then this kind of form comes in between, then they could be suffering. Maybe we could see another team taking their place. For Manchester United, they've been immaculate. Once again, Ole Gunnar is trying to find that perfect balance in the team. I think he's trying to find it, and he's already shown that they're capable of racking in those points, and who knows, they might just sneak in the top 4.
What about the second half, lapse of concentrations? Because we've seen teams suffer from that ever since the restart.
It's all about the opponent you're facing. You look at Manchester United right now, they've not faced that serious opponent who gives them a real test of their character. But then you look at how they let in very soft goals. Honestly, and I'll always repeat, Maguire is not a captain material for Manchester United, and he'll never be, because you look at how he doesn't have those leadership qualities. It doesn't mean that if you can go boot in a corner or head in a corner, then you're a hero. No. We have better leaders at Manchester United. Why don't you give the
names?
I have Pogba, I have De Gea. Those are good quality, and they've stayed at United. They know the system. They've been there for close to 1 decade, and they know what it takes to be a Manchester United player. You can't just give someone who comes from Leicester just because you bought him for £80 million and give him that armband. You can see what it's not really working. He's being shielded by Lindelof way too much. Even Eric Bailly.
Let's move on now to La Liga Spain. Atletico Madrid 3-0 winners over Mallorca. Where has this form come from? Even before we talk about Barcelona and Real Madrid.
I think it's just the late push. Well, we talked here a few weeks ago and they said that Atletico Madrid is a team that knows how to finish that sprint, and they've just shown it that they're capable of sneaking in, taking advantage of the slips of the likes of Getafe, Sevilla, and the unpredictability of the likes of Valencia. And you see the mid-table has been very I can say it hasn't had much activity. Look at the way teams have been playing there. Valencia have not been convincing. Villarreal are dropping points anyhowly. Getafe, they had a good first half of the season, but right now they are really dropping right now on 6th. But Atletico Madrid just reclaimed their place. Right now they have 62 points. You can see they've really showed that they have that character, and I think their resumption came, their rise came after that shocking Champions League beating of Liverpool, which showed that they can do something, and we've seen they're really trying very hard. I think they'll finish third.
Now, let me talk about, first of all, the Barcelona clubs. Espanyol going down. Everyone always knows that Barcelona always has got 2 clubs. Madrid has got Atletico, it's got Real, and Getafe just on the fringes. But what just went sideways for Espanyol?
First of all, I expected them to beat Leganés yesterday at home. Whatever happened in that match, I really don't know. But it's all about the kind of players you sign. And you see, Espanyol doesn't have quality players, and most of them are players who are in their final years of their career. They're not really trying to help the team. Most of them, you can find that have short-term contracts, and it's really affecting that team. To them, looking at the table right now, bottom of the table, 24 points, I don't think they have much in store to stay afloat, and it's something that will make that Catalonia region think twice. Look at Girona. It came and it went. It shows you that maybe Barcelona is over-dominating those sides and making sure that no one comes out of that place as successful as them, because we don't see many teams from that region trying to shadow Barcelona the way Atletico has tried outshining Real Madrid from the Madrista sides.
Now let's talk about Barcelona. Second on the table, they've got 73 points, 4 behind Real. But there's a story being told. A set of 8 players was written. You know, that Barcelona team that was playing PlayStation football. And currently their average age is 32. But they're still playing. And the question is time catching up with this side?
Sure, it's catching up because they cannot maintain the same level of high tempo football that used to be witnessed, let's say 3-4 seasons ago. You look at Messi right now, he doesn't have that speed. The legs are quite heavy right now. But you look at the players coming into the ranks to try and replace them, they're not really doing much. And the problem of over-relying on Messi in everything is also the main undoing at Barcelona. And you can see, it's evident. They're on top of La Liga right now. They're not there because Real Madrid capitalized on those slips by Barcelona to go 7 points clear until yesterday when Barcelona won at Villarreal. I was also shocked by that result, by the way, because they're not convincing at all. You look at these players, 8 of them over 30. They should be phased out with new players. Look at what is happening at Real Madrid. Zidane has really made a team that in the near future, no one will be catching them.
Okay, final one, Real Madrid, your take on that?
I think Real Madrid, they've just made amends and ensured that they capitalize on the Barcelona slips. Sergio Ramos, very crucial, scoring 5 goals in his last 7 matches. All winners. Those are hooping 15 points. He's won for Real Madrid. It's something that is very commendable, and I think they'll be matching with the title.
Well, Gregory Mulemi, he is our regular football analyst, giving us his insight, into football here. And a quick one, the Serie A. Is it a story that's done for? Is it a story of Juventus?
It's another story of Juventus because you find out that they started badly. They dropped points during the resumption, but then they picked up themselves, winning. Ronaldo is on fire, scoring in each and every match since the restart. It just shows you that this is a side that knows how to play against this side, the title pretenders. Lazio have fallen off the pace right now, and them being beaten by AC Milan over the weekend just showed you that there is no team that has character to wrestle that title from Juventus. Maybe AC Milan, whom I've watched in the last 4 matches, they've really tried playing that football that we know. Who knows? Maybe it's next season that they'll start maybe challenging for that title. But then for Lazio, whom I thought that they could try and wrestle the title from Juventus, have not really shown that character. It's another Juventus title.
Something I've noticed, and I mean over the weeks that have, the past 2 weeks, is the concerns over players getting injured, especially, in England and at this time. How much of an impact is it going to have? Because the mid-season for the, especially in Europe, for the 2019-2020 to the 2020-2021 season is going to be short. How much of an impact is it going to have on clubs, given the kind of sick notes that we're seeing being published?
A club that has a lean squad is in deep problems. But a club that has invested well in the youth structures and good backup players, I think those are the clubs that will have a very stable unit when it comes to the 2021 season. Because you look at right now, clubs that have, like, let's say the Leicester City that won the championship, you don't need to depend on 13 players to win you the title. Right now you have to have a very big squad and good players that if one is injured, then the replacement has or can do even a better job than the previous one.
And what about the use of VAR and the refereeing? I know there are some incidences that have come up. And also remember that silently, because of the pandemic and that, every year the International Football Association's board comes in with the rules. They're the ones that are making the laws of the game. What's the interpretations like for the new laws that we are seeing being implemented? Because actually they would have been implemented at other tournaments, but here they are being implemented at active leagues.
I think, first of all, the VAR is really a mess, especially in the, if I can single out the English Premier League. I'll just echo Jose Mourinho's sentiments that it's the VAR who is the referee nowadays, not the man in the center of the pitch. And it's something that we've witnessed some clubs really complaining about. The 5 substitution rule, I don't think it's really been effective because I have hardly seen teams utilize that to the core, because what they do is try introducing young players who will come in and have a run a little bit and feel the pitch. But these as rules, I think, the way FIFA was doing, use them at the junior level. If they're successful, then integrate them into the senior competition slowly.
But the adaptation for the new rules, usually we would see them applied at a World Cup. You'd see them, for example, this year, they would have been applied at the Copa America or at a youth tournament in Africa. So what happens now, and how do people adapt to these new laws?
I think maybe it's all about what we want to witness, because at least a trial is not bad. And we've seen that with the current pandemics, that everyone will accept anything that is challenged on them. And these rules, I believe, they'll be implemented. And then if one is not successful or several are not successful, then they can just be phased out. Because you look at the AB, BB penalty thing that was done at the FIFA World Cup.
Yes, or where team A takes a penalty, and then B takes two then back to A taking 2.
It wasn't making sense, and the way it was dropped, it's okay. We went back to normal, and football continues.
Well, Gregory Mulemi, the football purist, he wants things to go back to the way they were. Well, I'll keep telling people that football, VAR is not a machine. It's not a set of machines. It is people who are making decisions. An assistant referee to make a decision on the offside, and other referees to find out if it's a case of mistaken identity or a red card that could be, or something else. So they need to talk to people who are in cricket, rugby, and basketball, and they could get to understand it, and so that it works very well. It has been a pleasure being with you this morning. Thanks to our guest, Dennis Okeo, athletics journalist, and to Asha Kumugisho, who spoke to us from Kampala, Uganda, and Gregory Mulemi, our resident analyst, and still hoping that Liverpool get to 104 points. He's a Liverpool fan, so he's going to be on the hot seat for quite some time. And on behalf of the team that put together this bulletin, our directors, our producers, our engineers, and most importantly, you, the viewer, I want to say thank you for being with us on NewsCheck. Our sign language interpreter has been Simon Karoth, and before that, we had Lensa Odingo. Time for me to leave and hand you over to Timothy Kipnusu on Tamrini.
On the next episode...
What's wrong, Julio?
Do you actually believe that I would feel like coming home after that scene that you made yesterday?
Where were you? Hana was speaking to someone very suspicious. She said that she's not going to give us the money from the insurance.
This is the very last time you run away.
It's clear that you don't care about my feelings. Like I'm not your daughter.
We're making a mistake. This is not an impulse. This is my wish. Can't you see it's a necessity for me? What interest do you have in that maid keeping all of that money?
I am Ramon, the son of Juana. In love with Ramon.
Hamjambo Wakenya wenzangu. Mimi ni Mheshimiwa Mize. Ninalotaka kuambia ni kuwasihi ya kwamba korona iko. Na ili tupigane nayo na tuishinde. Ukikohoa, tafadhali kama una ile ya kujifunika ile tissue, weka mkono hapa. Kama ni chafia yako acho na itabakia pale pale. Kama ni kukohoa yako koholea hapo. Na nakwambia tukizingatia sheria na tuitii, hii corona tutaishinda na nchi yetu tutarudi kama kawaida.
Je, ungependa kujua jinsi ninavyojizuia kuambukizwa au kuambukizana virusi vya korona? Ni rahisi. Mwanzo, ninaziendesha shughuli zangu zote za kikazi na hata za kibiashara kutoka papa hapa nyumbani kwangu. Baadaye, ninaitunza mwili wangu vyema kwa kuiweka katika hali iliyo sawa kupitia mazoezi ya mara kwa mara na pia lishe bora. Mwishowe, ninaungana na jamii yangu pamoja na marafiki zangu kupitia njia ya simu au mtandao ili kuzuia dhiki na upweke wakati huu mgumu. Kumbuka, haijalishi kama uko na virusi vya korona au la, salia nyumbani. Uokoe maisha.
Embakasi Utawala tuko locked. Ungem Utanyahururu Kasuku Massive.
Jeshi ya Nyeri Coast Maua na Kuru wako locked mbaya.
Kigumo Ward na ambao wote wako ndani ya KBC Channel 1.
Akulaliki Wednesday bila the ref.
Mbotela Auta Idara Kitengela.
Kiambu County 33 Pipeline Meru anawakilisha.
Rongai Maboxa pale go down. Karatina Auta Mlolongo wana enjoy show. Lare Sub County Auta Githurai 45. Lanet Barracks tuko ndani yake. Okongo Auta Carnation Maragwa Seti
Nairobi.
Thika wako locked mbaya sana.
Watu wangu wa Nakuru Ngwaro.
Auta Gilgil.
Live kutoka Mazeras Bahati Massive.
Embo Thika Massive.
Siaya Shikambi Kakamega Bungoma County.
Kusia Boda
Kisumu City.
Malindi yote iko ndani ya the ref.
When I'm in Kenya, I tune in to the rave. Get your mind brave, focus, conscious.
Kenya,
East Africa.
Right.
Keep it locked.
Calling out to every can.
Hamjambo wa Kenya wenzangu. Mimi ni prosecutor. Niko hapa kusisitiza maagizo ambayo tunapewa na Wizara ya Afya kuhusu ugonjwa wa coronavirus. Tunaambiwa pahali pana watu wengi lazima tuweke distance, yani kuweka hatua mita 1 kwa mwenzako. Ukienda kwa matatu, weka distance. Ukienda kwa soko ama pale popote mkusanyiko wa watu, ni vizuri uweze kupeana hiyo social distance ili tuweze kumaliza maambukizi. Tukifuata haya masharti ama maagizo ambayo tunapewa na Wizara ya Afya, hakika tutaangamiza coronavirus na hali yetu ya kawaida tutairudia. Asanteni sana.
Kitambulisho hicho ni ishara tosha kwamba ni wakati wa tamrini ya Channel 1 leo, ikiwa ni siku Jumatatu tarehe 6 mwezi Julai mwaka 2020, siku ambayo Wakenya wamesubiria kwa hamu na gamu, nyuta na mate kujua iwapo kiongozi wa taifa Rais Uhuru Kenyatta ataondoa ile marufuku ya usafiri katika kaunti 3, Mombasa, Mandera na Nairobi. Bila shaka atakuwa na lihutubia taifa muda wa saa 1 jayo. Bila shaka tutakuwa tunakuletea taarifa hiyo, na katika tamrini hii leo basi tutakuwa naangazia hali halisi katika kuhusiana na janga la corona, na vile vile kutupia jicho siasa inavyozidi kuchacha katika taifa hili. Lakini kabla ya haya yote, kwanza tuangazie shajara ya wanahabari. Mtazamaji, hizo ni baadhi ya taarifa ambazo tunazifuatilia hii leo kwenye tamrini ya Channel 1. Hata hivyo, tunakupa fursa wewe uweze kutoa mapendekezo yako kuhusiana na ile tangazo ambayo inasubiriwa kwa hamu na gamu ya kiongozi wa taifa, iwapo taifa linastahili au kaunti zile 3 ambazo zimewekwa ile marufuku ya kusafiri inafaa kufunguliwa au la, kizingatia kwamba visa vingi vya maambukizi vinaendelea kushuhudiwa hapa nchini. Hapo jana tu katibu mwandamizi katika Wizara ya Afya Rashid Daman alithibitisha visa vingine 308 vya maambukizi hapa nchini. Hivyo basi mtazamaji, tutakuwa tunazamia swala hilo, iwapo taifa linastahili kufunguliwa au kaunti zile 3 zinastahili kufunguliwa, na vile vile hali ya uchumi hapa nchini na vile vile katika swala zima la siasa hapa nchini, na nitakuwa nazungumza na mtaalamu wa masuala ya kiuchumi ambaye vile vile ni mchanganuzi wa masuala ya kisiasa, Charles Bilali, ambaye tayari amejaa hapa studioni. Naitwa Timothy Kipnusu, mfasiri wa lugha ya ishara kwenye kulia ya kiwambo chako ni Lansa Odingo. Charles, karibu sana kwenye kitengo hiki cha mahojiano.
Asante bwana Kipnusu.
Macho yote yameelekezwa kwenye ikulu ya rais, tangazo ambalo atalitoa Rais Uhuru Kenyatta. Kwa mtazamo wako, afungue au asifungue?
Hilo ni swala nzuri, lakini itakuwa ni vigumu rais kufungua tunapoangalia ya kwamba visa vya COVID ama corona vinazidi kuongezeka. Itakuwa ni vigumu sana. Kwa shauri lazima ujue ama wananchi wajue wa taifa la Kenya ya kwamba rais ndiyo kiongozi wa nchi, na chochote ambacho atafanya kitadhuru ama kufaidisha nchi. Kwa maono yangu naona ya kwamba rais itakuwa ni vigumu sana kufungua tunapoona ya kwamba kama juzi jana kulikuwa na visa 308 ambavyo viliongezeka, na sio kawaida. Na mara nyingi sana pia tumeangalia hata sisi tukaona ya kwamba hospitali karibu zote Nairobi zimejaa wagonjwa. Ni hatari kubwa sana katika uchumi wetu, na pia na ukumbuke kitu kimoja ya kwamba uchumi wa nchi unatengenezwa na binadamu. Wakati binadamu yuko sawa ndio uchumi unakuwa. Lakini kama kutakuwa na vitu ambavyo vinamtishia huyu binadamu, uchumi utazidi kwenda chini.
Naam. Unapozungumzia uchumi, unafahamu fika kwamba watu wengi zaidi wamepoteza kazi, zaidi ya watu milioni 1.8, ripoti iliyotolewa. Kwa sasa najua imeongezeka, na unapodokeza kwamba rais lazima azingatie visa vya maambukizi jinsi inavyoongezeka, hivyo basi anastahili kutofungua, lakini hali halisi ya uchumi, Wakenya wamelalama. Wakenya baadhi hasa ambao wanafanya katika sekta ya mahoteli au mikahawa wameathirika pakubwa, na wanasubiria sana kiongozi wa taifa kufungua ili angalau waweze kurejea kazini, na sekta nyingine za uchumi ambazo zimeweza kuachisha kazi watu na vile vile kuwapatia likizo ya lazima bila mshahara.
Bwana Kipnusu, ni sawa, lakini angalia, piga darubini. Ilipokuwa ile saa 1 inatakana uwe ndani ya nyumba. Je, huu ugonjwa ulikuwa unaendelea ama ulikuwa unapungua? Ni kweli na ni wazi ya kwamba ulikuwa unapungua. Tunapoangalia haya masaa ambayo yameongezwa masaa mengine 3, ikawa watu wawe ndani ya manyumba zao saa 3, ugonjwa umezidi kuongezeka. Ina maana ya kwamba ukizidi kufungua zaidi, ugonjwa utatumaliza hii Kenya. Na ugonjwa sio mchezo. Nenda hospitali zetu hapa hivi utaona ya kwamba watu wamejaa na hakuna. Na ukiangalia tena kidogo katika county ama county zetu ama majimbo yetu kwa lugha ya Kiswahili, ya kwamba kuna majimbo 23 peke yake ambaye yamehitimu vile vitanda speciali vya kushughulikia watu wa corona. Na tuko na kaunti ngapi ama majimbo ngapi? Tuko na kaunti 47. Sasa angalia, katika wale ambayo wamefanya vizuri ni kaunti 23 ambayo iko na vitanda 300 na zaidi, kama na 2 ama na zaidi. Alafu hawa wengine 24 hawajatimiza. Ina maana ya kwamba kuna shida na huu ugonjwa utakuja kutuzidi sana.
Yeah. Kuna hatari ya kufunguliwa. Na unapozungumzia kuhusiana na kufunguliwa na amri hii kutekelezwa katika kaunti za Nairobi, Mombasa na Mandera, imebainika kwamba kuna masuala ambayo yamekuwa yakifanyika wakati huu ambapo Rais Uhuru Kenyatta pamoja na Wizara ya Afya kwa jumla wameweka mikakati ya kuhakikisha kwamba visa vya maambukizi ya VNA, na kwamba kuna Wakenya ambao wamekuwa wakitumia vichochoro kupita yale maeneo ambayo yamewekwa marufuku ya usafiri. Ufichuzi ambao umefanywa na baadhi ya wanahabari ambao wamekuwa katika ile harakati ya kubaini iwapo mikakati hii inafuatwa. Zungumzia swala hili. Nafahamika kwamba maafisa wa polisi ndio wametwikwa jukumu hili la kuweza kuhakikisha kwamba marufuku hii inatekelezwa, lakini inasikitisha kwamba baadhi yao wameweza kupatikana wakiweza kuruhusu watu waweze kupita maeneo ambayo serikali imeweka marufuku. Unasema nini?
Ni kweli kuna baadhi ya wale maafisa wetu ambaye wana mambo mengine ya saa zingine kupatiwa kitu alafu mtu akapita, lakini hivi karibuni nimeona na wengi hata Wakenya wameona ya kwamba mkazo umewekwa hasa. Unajua askari ni askari mmoja tu, alafu watu ni wengi, alafu kuna vichochoro vingi sana. Ule askari kazi yake ni kukaa pale katika ile load block amewekwa pale, aangalie ya kwamba wewe unaenda vipi, ama kama una barua ya kwamba maybe saa zingine unaenda kufanya, saa zingine kuna matanga, utapatiwa barua kama kawaida, si ati utaenda kando, lakini utakuwa umepimwa. Lakini sio maaskari wote wanachukua kitu, sio maaskari wote, isipokuwa wanadamu na wananchi ndio wanafanya hii mambo ya corona inaenda juu sana. Wanatoka wanapitia njia ambayo sio sawa. Kwa shauri huwezi kuweka askari pale kwenye barabara road block, alafu kisha umweke katika msituni fulani, vichochoro fulani. Kuna wengine nasikia hata wanapiga mbinzi. Unajua kupiga mbinzi? Wanapiga mbinzi mpaka ng'ambo ile nyingine, wanatoa nguo ndio wapige mbinzi. Sasa askari atawapata pale? Ni akili yako wewe kama mwanadamu, na kama wewe Mkenya kabisa, kama unapenda hii nchi, umeambiwa ya kwamba usitoke na eneo fulani na usiende eneo fulani. Ni kwa shauri ya nini? Hujakatazwa, lakini ni kwa shauri ya ugonjwa. Tutibidhi huu ugonjwa ili turudishe. Lakini wanapokeuka sheria ya Kenya ama sheria ya afya, itabidi sasa, nafikiri utaona rais saa zingine anaweza kwenda na akarudisha saa moja ile. Na ni kwa shauri ya wananchi ambaye wanakeuka. Tumeona wengi bwana Kipunusu. Nenda pale katika stage ya daradala ama matatu. Utapata yule jamaa ambaye anaitwa conductor. Anapiga kelele sana akiwaita wale wakuja kuingia katika ile gari. Huyu bwana ametoa kitamvua chake, amekiweka kwenye kidevu hapo. Sasa ule bwana kweli kama ana corona na anabeba watu wengi sana na anashirikiana na watu wengi sana. Huyu bwana si ni hatari sana. Na nafikiri pia hata ni mzuri huyu anaitwa watu wa county wanatakana waangalie masuala ya watu wa matatu, kuita watu kuita watu ndani. Hiyo nafikiri inatakana waangalie sana.
Maana bila shaka waziri katibu mwandamizi alidokeza kwamba sekta ya matatu wengi wamekuwa wakipuuza yale maagizo. Na umekuwa ukizungumzia swala ambalo ni muhimu zaidi, na vile vile limeweza kufichuliwa na baadhi ya wanahabari kwamba kuna baadhi tu ya wale ambao wanagushi stakabadhi zile zinazo tumika wewe mtu kuweza kupita kizuizi ambacho kimewekwa. Pengine zungumzia swala hili, na pengine Wizara ya Afya inastahili kufanya nini kushirikiana na Wizara ya Usalama wa Ndani ambayo bila shaka ndio vile vile kwa mstari mbele kudhibiti marufuku hii ya kutoka nje.
Nafikiri wakati wa mtu anayepatiwa ile barua kuwe na ile kopi yake pale ambapo amepatiwa hii barua. Ndio saa zingine askari akiona ama ofisa akiona ya kwamba kuna shida, kwa shauri mara nyingi sana, na sio mchezo, Wakenya ni wajuzi sana. Ile karatasi wataiangalia vile iko, alafu wataipiga vile iko na wataitengeneza, na watatengeneza mpaka mihuri kila kitu. Inaposikika ya kwamba wametengeneza ile, nafikiri ni mzuri ile kopi ibaki pale na namba ya ile. iwe imepatiwa serial. Nafikiri wakileta kitu ya serial itapunguza kidogo. Wakiweka ile serial, yani iwe na namba. Huyu bwana ambaye anakwenda Kisumu amepatiwa namba fulani na namba fulani. So ule akipiga ile namba tu, ama akionyesha katika mtandao, itamwambia ni nani ana travel, itakuwa katika hata mtandao. Nafikiri teknolojia ndio inatakana hapa, ndio tuteremshe chini ukora wa kutengeneza mabarua ya kusafiri.
Tukiwa kwenye muktadha huo Bilali, zungumzia zile county ambazo mwenyekiti wa baraza la magavana Wycliffe Ambetsa Oparanya alidokeza kwamba kidogo zinakumbwa na ile tatizo ya kuweza kukabiliana na gonjwa hili. Umedokeza kwamba kuna county ambazo zimeweza kusaidiwa kwa sasa na kuna zile ambazo bado hazijasaidiwa kuhusiana na zile vifaa na ambavyo vinasaidia wagonjwa. Hali halisi kwenye hospitali hasa mashinani, county zile za mashinani, ni nini hasa serikali inastahili kufanya ili kuweza kusaidia wagonjwa ambao wamethibitishwa kuwa wana corona na wako katika county za mashinani ambazo tumebainika kwamba vituo vya afya katika maeneo ya mashinani na hata maeneo tofauti ya taifa hili ni iko kwenye hali duni sana. Zungumzia swala hili.
Ni kweli vile unajua ya kwamba rais alikuwa na mkutano na magavana wote. Na magavana wakapatiwa majukumu yao ili wahakikishe, na wakapatiwa hata pesa zikatolewa ili wahakikishe ya kwamba wana mashini speciali na vitanda vya kuwahudumia hawa wagonjwa. Lakini unapata unajua katika uongozi pia ni ujuzi na ni maarifa, alafu ni lazima uwe ni mzoefu wa maarifa ya uongozi. Hauwezi kutolewa tu pahali ama ulipita na mlango wa nyuma ukafanya ile kazi. Ndiyo, kwa kweli kuna magavana wengi wamefeli. Magavana wengi. Hata kwanza kuna gavana ule mtu mmoja wa Bomet saizi yuko pale. Amefeli sana ule gavana. Amefeli sana. Kuna magavana ambayo wamefeli kabisa, wakafeli. Angalie katika takriban vitanda 23, kaunti 23 na 24. Unaona ya kwamba ni nusu na ni chini ya nusu watu wale magavana kuhakikisha ya kwamba wametimiza vitanda 300. Na hata sio 300 peke yake, pesa wanazo, mbona wasifanye? Huyu nakwambia kuna ufisadi wa hali ya juu na ndio unaharibu hii Kenya hapa. Kuna ufisadi upande wa juu katika serikali za kaunti. Na umesema vizuri ya kwamba kuna chini kidogo kuwa ya kwamba vituo vya afya katika katika kaunti zetu ya kwamba viko chini. Vina madaktari walio na ujuzi, lakini hawa madaktari pia hawana vyombo vya kusaidia wewe ili upate kupumua. Kwa mfano tumeona madaktari wa Kigoma. Na ni kweli sasa hii corona imekuja kutuonesha ya kwamba kumbe madaktari walikuwa na goma ukweli, kwa shauri hawana vyombo. Ndio wewe bwana Kipunusu upate kupona, ni lazima uweke kwenye ile mashini ipate kukurudisha joto lako chini, alafu upate kukutibu.
Unapozungumzia pengine Bilali, madaktari na wauguzi kugoma na kulalamikia masuala kadha wa kadha, kumekuwa vile vile na mdahalo kwamba marupurupu ambao wanapata, au sio marupurupu tu bali zile mshahara wao ni mdogo zaidi, ikizingatiwa kwamba wao ndio kwenye mstari wa mbele kwa sasa kwa kupigana na janga hili. Ukitizama wanasiasa wanajipatia pesa chungu nzima. Je, ni wakati ambapo Wizara ya Afya au ile tume ya kutathmini mishahara iweze kuangalia na wapa nyongeza ya mishahara hawa madaktari, na kilio chao kuhusiana na kubuniwa kwa tume ya afya ambayo imekuwa ni kilio cha baadhi ya wale washikadau katika sekta ya afya?
Ni bora zaidi tume ya afya kufunguliwa. Na unakumbuka hata siku ile ambayo tulikuwa na mjadala mwingine hapa katika KBC, tuliangazia kwamba na nikaangazia kwamba kuna ubora na kuna umuhimu wa tume huru la afya ili wapate kuangazia mishahara ya watu. Lakini hauwezi kulinganisha mwanasiasa na yule ambaye anafanya kazi zake, ambaye amehitimu katika ile. Kwa shauri ule mwanasiasa ako pale amepigiwa kura na mwananchi ili amtetee katika masuala mengi sana ya uchumi, masuala ya afya, masuala mengi. Sasa yeye ana mambo mengi ambayo anafanya, lakini huwezi kumlinganisha na yeye katika mishahara na huyu daktari. Hiyo itakuwa ni kama tutakuwa tumeenda nje ya mkataba. Lakini mwanasiasa ni mtu maarufu sana, alafu mshahara yake haiwezi kulinganishwa na daktari. Kwa shauri pia yeye anafanya kazi nyingi sana.
Tukitamatisha pengine kuhusiana na janga la corona, ili tujitose kwenye siasa, tamko ambalo atalitoa rais, umedokeza kwamba huenda atasongesha au atatoa ile marufuku ambayo ilikuwa imepelekwa hadi mwendo wa saa 3, irejelee hapo awali iwe saa 1. Pengine zungumzia shule kufunguliwa, manake hapo awali waziri wa elimu Profesa George Magoha alikuwa amedokeza kwamba kuna hali ya hatihati. Je, tunatarajia shule ifunguliwe mwezi wa 9, lakini kuna masuala ambayo lazima yaweze kuangaziwa kuhusiana na mikakati ya kudhibiti visa hivi vya maambukizi. Wewe kwa mtazamo wako kama mchanganuzi, unaona kwamba pengine kidogo wataangazia vile vile masuala ya elimu, kwamba shule zisifunguliwe kutokana na visa vya maambukizi, au itafunguliwa kama ilivyo ratibiwa na Wizara ya Elimu?
Bwana Kipnusu, shule kufunguliwa ni kwanza lazima tunaangalia ule wingi wa wanafunzi katika lile darasa. Tunaangalia madawati, kama kuna madawati ya kutosha. Tunaangalia kwamba kama kuna maji ya kunawa, hiyo maji, je, haunawi tu ati na maji, lazima unawe na sabuni. Kuna vitu vingi vya kuangalia. Na nyinyi mumefunguliwa juzi, mwezi mmoja uliopita, mkafunguliwa tu. Ni kufunguliwa ile. Kwa shauri ilikuwa ni saa 1, lakini ikaongezwa ikaenda mpaka saa 3. Serikali ama rais wetu alipofungua mpaka saa 3, visa vimeongezeka na wala sio kupungua. Inamaanisha ya kwamba sisi Kenya hii hatuko tayari hata siku moja hata kufikiria ya kwamba tutafungua mashule. Shule hazitafunguliwa, na ukitaka kuangamiza sasa uchumi vizuri, ni shule zifunguliwe, na utaona ni shida. Wacha turudi tena upande mwingine. Ninajua ya kwamba watu wengi wamepoteza kazi zao, karibu mamilioni ya watu. Alafu pia katika shule kuna walimu hawajazoea kukaa bila kufunza. Ile wamezoea kufunza miaka mingi. Na ndio maana saa zingine ukienda katika hawa wataalam wa psychology, tunawaita hivyo, saikolojia, unapata ya kwamba walimu ndio ambao wameripotiwa katika kupata ule huduma katika hawa watu. So inamaanisha ya kwamba pia imechangia katika mental illness ya watu,
msongo wa mawazo. Na hilo ndio lilikuwa swali ambalo lilikuwa nizungumzie. Kwa sasa utakabili aje msongo wa mawazo? Kuna watu ambao hata wamefikia ile wakati ambapo wanajitoa hai. Manake mtu hapa jiji la Nairobi anastahili kulipa kodi ya nyumba, anastahili hako na shida nyingi ambazo anastahili kuweza kuzitatua, lakini hana hela. Amefutwa kazi, yuko hapa jiji, hawezi safiri kutoka hapa kwenda mashinani, manake angalau mashinani unaweza kwenda pale shambani ukatoa pengine kuna ile mihogo ukapika ukala. Lakini zungumzia swali la msongo wa mawazo.
Nafikiri rais wetu aangalie sana hawa watu ambao walikuwa wanafunza shule za kibinafsi, sio za serikali. Kwa shauri, unajua kuna pia wale ambao walikuwa wanafunza shule za serikali ambao wamefunza miaka mingi, wakiwa wameandikwa na wazazi na walimu, ambao kwa kimombo wanaitwa PTA. Nafikiri Uhuru, president wetu, nafikiri itabidi aangalie hawa watu, je, tunawaweka wapi? Tutawaweka wapi ili kwa shauri atufungue, na tuwezi kufungua. Tukifungua kuna hatari. Je, hao watu ambao walikuwa wanapata mapato yao kufunza wanafunzi kwa sauri wa serikali wanaendelea kulipwa wale ambao wameandikwa na serikali. Je, hao watu ambao walikuwa wameandikwa na wanafunzi watapata vipi mapato yao? Alafu kutoke hapo tena twende katika shule za kibinafsi. Je, hao watu ambao walikuwa wameandikwa, mamilioni ya walimu ambao walikuwa wameandikwa, je watapata vipi? Na sio hapo tu, twende mpaka katika mashule. Kuna shule ambazo zafunza dini. Je, hao walimu ambao walikuwa wanafunza dini wanafunza dini ya Kikristo, wanafunza dini ya Kiislamu, saizi watu wahudhuri hayo mafunzo. Je, hawa watu wanapata mapato yao vipi? Nafikiri ni wakati mwafaka rais wetu atuambie hawa watu, je tutawapatia pesa vipi ama watapata pesa vipi? Najua kuna ile shilingi 1,000 kwa kila mwezi ambayo zinatolewa kwa watu ambaye wako kidogo chini. Lakini je, na hawa watu wengine pia tutawafanya namna gani? Ndio uchumi uendelee kukaa. Na ndio tu balance katika uchumi, ni lazima tuangazie hawa watu, je wanapata mapato yao namna gani?
Hilo ndilo swali kuu. Tugane na COVID-19, tujitose kwenye siasa. Mchanganuzi wa masuala ya kisiasa. Siasa inachacha katika taifa hili, kinyang'anyiro cha mwaka 2022 kikipamba moto, mwanasiasa wakisakata rumba hili la siasa kujipanga kwa ajili ya mwaka 2022. Pengine tuangazie misukosuko katika vyama tofauti hapa nchini, kizingatia kwamba chama cha Ford Kenya na kidogo ANC kumekuwa ni kama vuta ni kuvute. Zungumzie swala hili. Kwanza tuanze na Ford Kenya, ile na wakati ambapo kulikuwa na ile vuta ni kuvute baina ya Wafula wa Mnyinyi ambaye ni mbunge wa Kandui, ambaye kwa sasa alijitokeza kwamba ndiye sasa ndiye kinara wa chama cha Ford Kenya, na Moses Wetangula yeye si kinara tena. Kuzungumzia misukosuko na vile vile kuhusiana na Seli Simiyu ambaye ni mbunge wa Tongaren.
Ford Kenya imekuwa na mashuko kadha wa kadha. Na ukiangalia vizuri sana kitambo mwaka wa 1921 kulikuwa na kikundi ambayo kilikuwa kinajiita North Kavirondo na South Kavirondo. Ndio ambaye inajirudia yenyewe. Alafu umaarufu wa Moses Wetangula alipotemwa kama kiranja siku ile, so ikamleta chini,
kiongozi wale wachache katika bunge,
ilimleta chini na akuongea. Na ukiangalia katika durubini la kisiasa ni ya kwamba wewe katika tunapoongea na wewe upande na upande wa siasa, je wewe una nini ambao unaweza kuleta katika meza? Huo ndio ubabe wa siasa Kenya. Wameangalia wakaona ya kwamba Moses Wetangula ana kitu ambacho anaweza kukupatia wewe, akiwekelee chini aseme ya kwamba nina watu wangu ambaye ni watu sugu ambayo wanaweza kunifuata nyuma. Ndio maana yule ambaye anaitwa Atuoli aliangalia kapima siasa za huko kwao, akasema ya kwamba huyu bwana ni lazima tumnyatue. Na kweli akanyatuliwa. Na hata kuna muziki mingi tu imechezwa ya kwamba lazima watu wanyatuliwe.
Na pengine unapozungumzia kuhusiana na maarufu wa seneta Moses Masika Wetangula, seneta wa Bungoma, ukiangazia viti ambavyo aliweza kuvipata katika eneo bunge hilo katika kaunti ya Bungoma, viti vya Ford Kenya, kwamba kulikuwa na viti vitatu tu vya kutoka kwa chama cha Ford Kenya, viti 4 vikatoka kwa chama cha Jubilee. Inaashiria nini, ikizingatia kwamba yeye ni hiyo ni ngome yake kama kinara wa chama cha Ford Kenya?
Huyo Moses Masika Wetangula aliteremka chini na siasa zake zikateremka chini, na nimerudia wakati alipoteremshwa kama kiranja. Na mara nyingi sana bwana Kipunusu, ukiona ya kwamba Waswahili husema ya kwamba siku ya nyani ikifika miti yote uteleza.
Anajaribu kushika hapa, kuna kuteleza kote, kuna teleza.
Sasa huu bwana anaitwa Moses Masika Wetangula ambaye ni mheshimiwa ana umaarufu kwa sasa kwao, na hata itakuwa ni vigumu yeye kurudi kama senator, na ndio maana amechujwa. Na saizi kuna wale ambaye wanajiandaa
pengine kabla hujazungumzia ambao wanajiandaa, azungumzie kuhusiana na nafasi ambayo kwa sasa, japo hatujapata uhalisia wa mambo kuhusiana na masuala haya. Wafula wa Munyinyi, unamfahamu aje yeye na yeye kuongoza chama hicho cha Ford Kenya, chama ambacho kimekuwepo tangu hapo awali, akisaidiwa pamoja na mbunge wa Tongaren Eseli Simiyu, ambapo awali alikuwa katibu mkuu wa chama hicho cha Ford Kenya.
Ukiangalia katika ule kuongea pia, unajua katika siasa ni lazima pia wewe katika kuongea kwako unaongea vipi. Ukiangalia Wafula wa Munyinyi, Wafula na nani Moses Wetangula, katika hawa watu kaweka katika ratili, unaona ya kwamba Wafula yuko juu, Moses Wetangula yuko chini. Kweli kabisa. Na ni sawa, sitoki ile, mimi ninachangia.
Wafula ni mtu ambaye azungumzi zaidi, amepataje umaarufu?
Ule bwana ana umaarufu. Na ukumbuka ya kwamba angalia story zake, historia yake huko nyuma. Ni bwana ambaye amepigania sana. Na amepigania chama hicho. Ule bwana amepigania chama, na ile chama lipate kuwa na msimamo sawa. Lakini wana dhulumu wenzao. Kwa kitambo walikuwa na dhulumu wenzao kwa shauri ya kwamba saa zingine ukitaka kupata ile ticket ni lazima umuone Moses Wetangula, inakuwa ni briefcase. Na ndio maana inakuwa ni briefcase, lakini sio ofisini.
Naam. Unapozungumzia swala hili vile vile, kabla tuzungumzie vile vile Mudavadi, manake wao wawili wamekuwa wakitembea pamoja, Masika Wetangula na Mudavadi wamekuwa hapo jana katika gatuzi la Busia jaribu kuonyesha ubabe wao katika eneo la magharibi. Zungumzia iwapo pengine mazungumzo, unadokeza kwamba lazima unapoingia kwenye kinyang'anyiro lazima uwe na nambari katika meza yote ya mazungumzo. Uko na watu ambao unasema kwamba niko na watu hawa na hawa ndio nakuletea katika kinyang'anyiro cha pengine cha urais na pengine masuala kama hayo. Unapoangazia umaarufu wake Wetangula na vile vile Mudavadi, kuna wale tu ambao wamedokeza kwamba kwa sasa masaibu ambayo yanawakumba ni kutokana na uamuzi wao wa kisiasa, kuchukua uamuzi ambao kidogo ndio umewaletea masaibu. Kizana kwamba vile vile chama cha ANC, Mudavadi analama kwamba kuna wale ambao wanataka kumpokonya kiti hicho, yeye kama kinara wa chama hicho cha ANC.
Tumeona mara mingi sana vyama vinajiweka katika ratili na kujipima ili wapate kuona ya kwamba ni chama gani ambapo kiko imara. Ukiangalia ya kwamba Mudavadi kidogo yuko juu kidogo katika mkoa
umaarufu katika eneo la magharibi.
La magharibi. Lakini pia ukumbuke kitu kimoja, ule mkutano ambaye uliitwa na Francis Atwoli
kwa vyama vya wafanyikazi,
ulikatakata miguu hawa mabwana wanaitwa Moses Wetangula na Mudavadi. Na utaona ya kwamba hawatakuwa na chao ikija hiyo. Na ndi kweli Moses Wetangula na Mudavadi walipata viti. Lakini ikija mwaka wa 2022 watakuwa hawana hata kiti kimoja.
Naam. Hebu angazia matamshi yake Mudavadi siku mbili zilizopita walipokuwa wakijibizana, cheche za maneno zikirushiana kati yake na gavana wa gatuzi la Kakamega ambaye ni mwenyekiti wa baraza la magavana Wycliffe Ambetsa Oparanya, ambaye yeye pamoja na waziri wa ugatuzi Eugene Wamalwa wameonekana kuwa ndio wanapeperusha bendera kutoka eneo la magharibi, akidokeza kwamba ndio wamechagua Oparanya, lakini alikuwa na kauli tofauti kwamba Oparanya ataendelezaje kuweza kuleta jamii pamoja, ikiwa kwamba yeye si kinara wa chama, yeye ni naibu kinara wa chama. cha ODM. Zungumzia kuhusiana na mabwana hawa wawili, Moses Masika Wetangula na Mudavadi, na vile vile Oparanya pamoja na Eugene Wamalwa.
Nafikiri mwanzo wacha nianzie katika vyama kama mtaalamu wa sayansi ya siasa. Hivi vyama tunapotengeneza vyama, tunatengeneza vyama ili vipate kufaulu na viingie katika president wetu na viingie kila pande. Lakini ukiangalia hivi vyama, hasa chama cha ODM. Chama cha ODM kiko imara, kiko mbele na kiko kila pahali Kenya mzima. Ukiangalia Ford Kenya iko tu upande wa Western. Unanielewa? Sasa itakuwa ni vingumu sana.
Ford Kenya pia iko county ya Kisii.
Ndiyo, iko Western. Huko ni pande ile ni ya Western, lakini haipo upande wa Pwani na iko pale pengine iko upande wa Western. So unapata ya kwamba hivi chama kama Jubilee na ODM vina umaarufu, na ndio unaona kuna chama ambacho kinaitwa pia chama cha mashinani ambayo kinaongozwa na Mheshimiwa Isaac Ruto. Pia unaona vinaanza kuwa na chama maarufu, na hiyo chama cha mashinani kitakuwa maarufu sana hata kushinda KANU hivi karibuni.
Pengine tukiangalia na magharibi kidogo, zungumzia ile chama cha Jubilee kujitokeza na kufanya kazi pamoja na chama cha Wiper na chama cha mashinani ambayo kama ulivyodokeza inaongozwa na Isaac Ruto aliyekuwa gavana wa Bomet. Inaashiria nini katika siasa za mwaka 2022?
Kuna inajipanga, na ninakwambia chama cha Jubilee kimeangalia kikaona ya kwamba kumbe kuna watu ambao wafanye kazi. Kwa mfano kama angalia ile kazi ambayo inafanywa hapa Nairobi. Hii muda kidogo ambaye bwana anaitwa Badi amechukua, tumeanza kuona ya kwamba yale mabarabara yetu yameanza kutengenezwa. Vitu vingi vimeanza kutengenezwa katika hii county. Ukirudi nyuma unajiuliza, je, huyu bwana ambaye tulimchagua kama gavana wetu, je, huyu bwana kwani ni pesa alikuwa ana ama ni ujuzi wa kuongoza ana? Unapata ya kwamba nafikiri lazima tunapowachagua watu, wacha tuchague watu ambaye ni watu ambao wakufanya kazi.
Tuzungumzie kuhusiana na chama alichokizindua alikuwa waziri wa kilimo ambaye alitemwa katika serikali ya kiongozi wa taifa Rais Uhuru Kenyatta, Mwangi Kinjuri, chama cha Service Party. Inaashiria nini vile vile kuhusiana na siasa za mwaka 2022? Je, huenda ikasabaratisha kura kutoka eneo ambalo inamilikiwa na kura milioni 1.9, zile kura za kutoka ule mkoa wakati kulingana na ile ripoti ya Tume Huru ya Uchaguzi na Mipaka nchini ya IBC, milioni 2.9.
Nafikiri kabla tujaingia katika Kinjuri, wacha tuanze kuweka mizani ya chama. Ni chama gani ambayo kiko juu? Unaangalia kwamba Jubilee, ODM, alafu unaangalia kidogo KANU kidogo, mtu akikwambia kwamba unapiga KANU anasema hiyo iko chini. Na hata saa hizi unapata ya kwamba kuna ile chama ambaye inakuja namba 3 ni chama cha mashinani. So huu ni utelezi tu. Ule bwana amehamia msituni huu akaenda huyu msituni mwingine. Na ana watu ule bwana.
Gani ule wa GNU?
Amehamia katika kutoka msitu wa GNU akaenda katika service. Yeye mwenyewe ameshindwa, amepatiwa kama CS, akashindwa kufanya kazi. Je, ataongoza chama? Na ana watu, na ndio maana nakwambia bwana Kipunusu ya kwamba ni lazima uwe na kitu ya kuweka katika meza ndiyo tuanze kuongea na wewe. Mimi nikiwa kama kinara wa chama chochote kile, siwezi kuongea na wewe na kama hauna watu wa kunipa. Chama ni watu, na chama ni ujuzi, na chama ni lazima mtu awe. Unajua hata hawa watu wanapokuchagua, kwa mfano rais wetu anapokuchagua uwe makamu wa waziri ama uwe waziri, anaangalia ya kwamba je, huyu bwana anaweza hii kazi? Kama uwezi unatimuliwa. Kama Kinjuri alitumuliwa kwa shauri hawezi kazi, na yeye ameama tu ule msitu wa GNU akaenda msitu wa service. Ile chama chake kinaitwa service, atini service. service ile yeye mwenyewe hawezi kupatia service.
Pengine tumpatie muda atashangaza wengi pengine.
Hata sangaza na wacha nikwambie bwana Kinusu. Hakuna zile kura ambazo atazipata pale. Zile kura tayari watu wanaangazia pale pengine. Na wacha nikwambie president anafanya kitu mzuri sana ya kuunganisha jamii yote. Na kumbuke kuna kitu alituambia kwamba anataka kuunganisha jamii yote. Na kuunganisha jamii yote ni kwamba haya machama ambayo nyinyi mmetengeneza ya kikabila. Kwa mfano kuna machama ya kikabila Ford Kenya, kuna hii machama ndogo ya kikabila. Kama hii ya service hiyo pia ni
matamshi yako si yetu. Kusema na chama cha kikabila.
Sasa yeye ameleta vyama vyote, akaviunganisha, akazileta kabisa zinaendelea kuchangia Jubilee ile Big Four agenda ambayo
unapozungumzia kiongozi wa taifa kuleta vyama vingi pamoja kufanya kazi pamoja. Kuna baadhi ambao wanasema kwamba huenda akaweza kufanya mabadiliko kwenye baraza lake la mawaziri. Kwa mtazamo wako kama mchanganuzi wa siasa atafanya hivyo au la?
Kuna mawaziri kweli wamezombea, hawafanyi kazi. Mawaziri kama mawaziri wa ministry,
bila kuwataja
waziri katika shirika la ardhi hawafanyi kazi. Afadhali tunamuona kidogo nani bwana Tobiko anakimbishana kuangalia kwamba misitu inalindwa na manyumba ambaye yamejengwa katika misitu yanatolewa.
Kwa sababu kuna baadhi ambao wamezembea.
Kuna baadhi ambao wamezembea tena wengi sana. Nafikiri shoka iko karibu na itawaangukia hivi karibu.
Naarifiwa karibu tutamatishe dakika moja tu. Pengine neno lako la mwisho kuhusiana na siasa za hapa nchini na pengine tamko ambalo tunalisubiria zaidi ya kiongozi wa taifa Rais Uhuru Kenyatta. Ukitamatisha dakika moja.
Rais Uhuru Kenyatta aangazie masuala mengi sana. Hasa kufungua itakuwa ni pigo kubwa sana kwa binadamu ama wananchi wa Kenya. Mwanzo ugonjwa unaendelea kwenda juu na ushuki. Tumepatiwa bwana rais wetu mpendwa alituongezea kutoka saa 1 mpaka saa 3. Naye kutoka saa 1 mpaka saa 3 hatujaona ya kwamba ugonjwa ukiwa unateremka unapanda tu. Mimi ningelimuomba ya kwamba akiwa anazungumuza leo awe na hekima katika kutoa jawabu lake leo.
Asante sana Bilali kwa mawazo yako na wasia nzuri zaidi kwenye kitengo hiki cha mahojiano. Mtazamaji, na kufikia hapo sisi hatuna la ziada ila kutamatisha tamrini ya Channel 1, lakini kama nilivyodokeza hapo awali, kabla ya kutamatisha tutaweza kupitia baadhi ya jumbe zenu. Moja mbili. Kuna Dennis kutoka kaunti ya Kirinyaga anasema kwamba anafurahishwa zaidi na baadhi ya watu ambao kwa sasa wameanza kutekeleza au anashangazwa, anasema hivyo, anashangazwa zaidi na watu ambao wanapita marufuku ya kutoka nje kutafiri kutoka eneo moja hadi jingine. Naarifiwa vile vile kuna jumbe kutoka kwa Rotich kutoka kaunti ya Uasin Gishu anasema kwamba rais aweze kufungua nchi manake uchumi umeathirika zaidi. Asante sana. Ni jumbe zenu mtazamaji ambazo mmezituma, sitaweza kupitia zote kwa sababu ya muda. Kwa niaba ya wale wote ambao wameweza kufanikisha tamrini ya Channel 1 akiwemo mpambe wangu mchanganuzi wa masuala ya kisiasa na mtaalam wa masuala ya uchumi Charles Bilali, na wale wote hapa ambao wameweza kuhakikisha kwamba mambo hayaendi segemnege. Mimi naitwa Timothy Kipnusu, akiridhia Rabuka. Tukutane tena wakati na wasaa kama huu wa leo hapo kesho kwenye tamrini ya Channel 1. Usukani kwa sasa na wacha kwake mwenzangu haweze kukufahamisha yanayojiri katika lugha ya King'eng'e. Na kutakia mchana mwangavu.
viewers, once again, I come to us and I want to thank God for this opportunity that He has given us to be able to share on the scripture. My name is Pastor Fanuel Pisa, coming from Outreach Hope Church from Huruma along Juja Road. And our reading comes from the book of Psalms chapter number 50 and verse number 15. The Bible says that, and call upon me in the day of trouble, I will deliver you, and you will honor me. Brothers and sisters from all over who are watching me, I want to tell us that God delights in our calling Him. And there are various areas or moments in life that God expects us to be able to call Him. And at such a time we are facing in the entire world, in the life of people, God expects us to call Him. And the Bible says that, call unto me during the day of trouble. We are facing this pandemic today, and God expects us to call Him. When we call God, we call Him to come and to intervene. And when God intervenes in a situation that is affecting us, things will never remain the same. He comes in and He changes things. The Bible says in one of the gospel books, the Bible says it will come to pass in the time that you call upon the name of the Lord will hear you, will answer you, will serve you, will deliver you, will provide for you what you need. It is high time today, Kenyans, wherever you are watching me from, that you can lift up your voices, you can lift up your eyes and look up to God by calling Him to intervene in what is happening this day in our country, in the entire world, in our communities where we are coming from. We can call on God. He is able to hear us. The Bible says His ears are not as deaf as they cannot hear us. Neither are His eyes blind that they cannot be able to hear us. Neither are His hands short that they cannot be able to save us. He is calling us to call on His holy name. Let us not keep quiet from wherever we are. You can call Him from home. You can call Him from the place that you are, and God will be able to hear us because His ears are able to hear us, and He is able to answer us as He has promised us in His word. His word does not come to us in vain. The Bible says whenever He sends His word in our lives, it comes and it fulfills the purposes for which God sent it to perform in our lives. Let us call Him today. Let us call Him in the morning. Let us call Him in the afternoon. Let us call Him in the night. He is a good God, and His ears are hearing us. They are able to hear us. He is able to answer us, and He is going to answer us. I call upon us to be able to pray to Him because He is able to do whatever we pray and ask Him to do for us. Can we pray as we wind up? Father, we thank You because You delight in our calling on Your holy name. And You have said that we call on to Your holy name during the day and the time of trouble. And we are calling to Your holy name as a church and as a country and the entire world. People are raising up their hands. They are raising up their voices. They are calling on Your holy name that You may once again have mercy on Your people. We thank You because You are a good God. You hear us and You answer us. For in Jesus' name, our Lord and our Savior, we pray and believe.
Next on.
Ngoja niulize jamaa, nani hapa hivi amepimwa hivi majuzi?
Pale kwa Mwangi, si ni 10 bob.
Sijasema kupimwa weight. Saa hizi kupimwa HIV ni haraka na ni bure.
The person who supervised this conspiracy is the one who wants to dethrone you. And that trusted person is...
Kukuwa na HIV si eti ni mwisho. Wewe uko nayo? Mimi nilishapima.
Afya bora, maisha bora.